Excuse me.
Oh dear.
That was probably the first thing that went out live.
Excellent. Evening all.
Yeah, that sounded like you were going to be sick there.
Have we not got the holding page on?
No.
Okay.
Straight in.
I can't actually see that we are live.
Straight in, no lube.
Yeah, I've got nothing yet.
No, it's not up.
No.
I can see it. It's there.
Oh.
It's not coming up on my YouTube feed.
Oh, hang on. Hang on.
Chris is off the ball tonight.
There you go. We're up now.
Hey.
We are live, YouTube.
Right, sure.
Yeah, there we go. Good stuff.
I'll put it up on YouTube. Sorry, Facebook.
And we got our scrolling stuff.
Yeah, it's there.
Good, excellent.
Yeah, there does seem to be no live chat, as you said, Chris.
I don't know.
Oh, no, it's just popped up.
Yeah, hot petition, testing, check. All good. That's running. We've got 2 people watching. I think that's probably us.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, we've got 4 people watching. Mr. Brooks in the house and the hitman Harmon.
That's on Facebook. I'm just going to put it on our page after the and tell everyone they need to start liking our page to get the notifications.
Yes, they do. Yeah, no, I saw you promoting that, Andy. That was good.
We need to push that, yeah.
Definitely.
Just so folks know.
Hit that bell.
Yeah. Ring that bell. Ding, ding, ding.
Ring that bell.
The good thing with if you subscribe to the channel and you hit the bell, then the bell's good for obviously people are getting notifications straight to their phone. You know that it's like, right, that's it live, boys. So any of the guys that are right into following along.
Well, to be fair, obviously quite a few of them do already have that set up because
they're straight on.
Yeah.
Huge Brews, Brett, Brooksy, they're all straight in the house.
Yeah.
Nothing better to do.
Straight in the house. They've been waiting.
Yeah, they've been gasping.
That's the best way to encourage them, is to insult them right at the beginning of the podcast.
I often think that's the way to go.
Treat them mean, keep them keen.
Very good. Right, should we make a start?
Probably should do.
Okay, all right. So if I count us in, then we hit records. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, click.
It says.
Okay.
All good.
Get some silence before we start.
Check. Yeah, I'm good.
Everyone good?
Mint up.
Good evening and welcome to episode 53 of the Hop Edition podcast, where myself, Tricky, and Andy will be updating you on our annual podcast that we like to refer to as State of the Brewing. So this is 2022 edition coming at you. Some apologies from Chris. Chris is currently just trying to resolve a technical issue. So hopefully he'll be joining us at some point during the podcast, but for the moment he is pounding the keyboard and pulling the levers and doing whatever he's doing.
Well, you were going to say something else there, Owen, but never mind. Carry on.
Well, it could be.
Get your minds up the gutter, boys. Get your minds up the gutter.
It's a good start.
So we're going to be chatting all about our beer experience, what we've been brewing, how our brewing has changed in the last kind of 9 to 12 months since we did our last State of the Brewing update, and just generally kind of shooting the breeze. So it's going to be a little bit more of a laid-back kind of podcast. We'll see where this goes, and it should be fun. So before we start, I'd just like to say a big thank you to our sponsor, Brew Keg Tap. If you are in need of any kegging, dispensing, taps, kegland stuff, then check out Brew Keg Tap. You're gonna get a first class service there from Johnny and his team. So thank you to Johnny for his continued sponsorship of the podcast, and a big shout out to our Patreons who are continuing to support the podcast. Massive thanks. We couldn't do it without you.
Yeah.
And it means that we're able to grow things and move things forward for the podcast, which is amazing. So thank you. I'm not sure we've got any new Patreons since the last podcast. So no specific call outs for anyone, and a big thank you, but just thanks to all of you. You're lovely human beings.
Legends.
Great guys and girls. So we also need to be promoting our YouTube channel.
Yeah, YouTube and our Facebook on, because
and our Instagram as well.
And our Instagram.
Yeah, Insta will follow, but I think the most important thing is we've had a bit of feedback where people feel that we're not communicating enough when the next pod's going to be, because you guys are all biting at the bit for the next pod. So we're trying to be more proactive, and the best way to do that, I think, is through our Facebook. We've got a Facebook page, the Hop Edition. So if you head over there and hit like on that, then you'll get all the latest updates on what's coming up, and any pictures and stuff like that will start dropping on there as well. So it's probably the best way, because what we don't want to be doing is spamming all the brewing groups either. So we will try and get updates to reach out to new people, but our current listeners, try and get over to Facebook, because it would help us, and it would help you massively as well, just to get a heads up of when things are happening.
If you're subscribed on the YouTube channel, obviously you're only going to get notification as and when a podcast goes live, literally as it happens. So obviously Facebook is much better as far as getting some pre-warning for that. And just to add on to that, we're looking at trying to schedule the kind of dropping of the edited versions of the podcast a little bit more, not regularly, but formally, I guess, or in a specific slot sort of thing. So the next one, which was the episode with Hoddy on the Poddy, those of you that were here live last time would have probably listened into that. Obviously, most of you that are listening now would have heard that one or listen to it on YouTube, but the edited version will be dropping tomorrow morning. And I think going forwards, we're going to be looking to make a regular slot for a Thursday, where not every Thursday, but probably aiming for roughly every couple of weeks, we'll be dropping an edited episode onto, obviously, the podcasting platforms. So it'll just be a little bit more regular, so you know when that's going to be up and live. And I think the thinking is that we'll do it on the Thursday, so people can then listen to it over the weekend, if they want to.
So it's all good. So it's just try to improve things for you guys, the listeners. Yeah.
Cool. So all good updates going on around the podcast. We're super excited. Andy's taken in the role as our
social
media manager.
Social media, yeah.
Thanks, Andy. You're doing a good job there. And we've got lots of exciting guests and stuff lined up as well. So we'll be bringing that kind of content. And thank you to everyone that's been engaging on our recent Facebook posts, just to talk about kind of what you want us to cover and what you want us to kind of discuss on future podcasts.
Yeah, that was really cool, actually. Some of the ideas that were coming in. Yeah, I like that.
So fun stuff. Cool. So let's crack on then, guys. So, Andy, what are you drinking?
Yes, I am drinking the Cornflux one, because how good is that? And this is the thing, right, guys? We did this with the malt miller and part of the competition in the Unity. And the recipe's just banging. Like, guys, if you've not brewed it, like, seriously brew it. Because this could quite easily be a hazy pale that I would have on tap quite regularly, quite happily. It seems to be going down very, very well. And it's still absolute murk. Like, it's just not dropping. So it's like brilliant.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at the grain bill. The grain bill is, flaked. I think it's flaked wheat and stuff like that. And
yeah. I mean, it's not super heavy on the adjuncts. I don't think it's not mental, but I just think that's the yeast, right? The London Ale 3.
London Ale 3.
And when you combine that with a massive charge of hops, it's just adds practically perma-haze to the beer.
Yeah. And
it's a great beer.
Yeah, and it was the first time I ever used Idaho 7, and I'm definitely very impressed with it. So I think I bought another 225 grams from Crossmaloof. So I put in a wee order with they guys. They gave us a wee sponsorship, didn't they, with the competition, so a giveaway. So yep, I put it there and got some Nelson as well. So that's another hop I've not tried, and I know you guys all love Nelson.
So is that, Andy, was that 2021 or
21?
I've seen the 2022.
Yeah, malt miller.
New Zealand and Australian hops out now. So
put their little update on with the nitrogen flushed packaging. Yeah. They've changed their packaging, and then it was like, hey, 2022.
That was pretty cool, actually. That was an interesting little update that I saw from the malt miller. If people hadn't seen that, the change in the packaging and the hops to make it slightly smaller, and they are nitrogen packaging them rather than vacuum packing them.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not sure there'll be necessarily a huge quality difference, but who knows? I don't know enough about that.
I think they'll say it's given it a bit, for the putting it in the mail, your hops might not get smashed up as much.
Yeah,
so,
when they're vacuum packed, they're pretty rock solid, though.
That's true. Yeah.
But it's not just the malt miller. They've got 2022 New Zealand and Australian hops. I was on the Crossmaloof website actually just earlier today. They've got 2022 in as well.
I've jumped the gun.
So, yes, you have. You always do this. You always do this. You madman.
You paid that premium price, haven't you?
Amazing. Unreal. But
Amazing.
Hey, I heard 21's good anyway. So yeah, I'll need to come up with a recipe for some Nelson and obviously the Idaho 7. But yeah, so that's what I'm drinking. Tricky. What about yourself?
Well, speaking of Nelson, I am on a rebrew of the Nelson Pilsner, which was the silver medal winning beer in, I can't remember what the competition was now. Was it the lab competition? There's a kit for this, by the way, on the Brew Day website, if anyone's interested in looking at that. Only slight change with this one was I didn't realise that I'd run out of Wakatu hops, so I had to sub in some Hersbrucker, I think I put in there instead. So it's Wakatu's like a New Zealand version of Hallertau, so I just thought I'll go for, the Hallertau hop that I've got in, because it's maybe not going to have the slightly limey thing, but Wakatu is like, as far as New Zealand hops go, it's a super subtle, like the fruit flavor is really, really light on it. So I thought, like, I'm not really going to lose out on much. And the Nelson is so dominant in this anyway that it hasn't made that much of a difference, I don't think, to the beer, to be honest. I think there's maybe just a slightly more, I guess, sort of noble, spicy background layer there than maybe there would have been on the previous one. But otherwise, the Nelson, like grapey gooseberry, like juicy grape kind of thing is the main flavour you get anyway. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm just hoping that it clears down a little bit because I dropped my beer. I've ended up putting some gelatin in this because it's supposed to be going to the BrewCon competition, and it's not looking very Pilsner-like at the moment. It's more like an APA or something. So just needs to clear up a bit, but otherwise I'm really happy with it.
Are you going to use your new method for gelatin?
That was actually the video that I was doing it on. That was it.
Amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that was the reason why I'd seen that somewhere else, like I said in the video, and I realized I needed to gelatin it, but I didn't really want to like open the keg up and throw stuff in. So I was like, I'll give that a try, and because it was literally, I had a couple of old disconnects. Well, all I need to do is join them with a tube, and then that's job done, really. So so it's really simple and really easy little trick, and like I said, I don't think it's like the end of the world if you do open the keg to pour stuff in, but it's just if you can avoid it and it's that easy to do, then belt and braces approach to trying to keep oxygen out. I think once you're at, post packaging or whatever, that's probably the most important time, as well as transferring where you don't want to be exposing it to oxygen or whatever. So
I think it's probably at the far end of the diminishing returns, isn't it? It's kind of, but like I say, it's going to have some impact. So I think when you open a keg, generally you are kind of getting a relatively positive pressure out of the keg just from the CO2 escaping the beer, particularly when you pour in gelatin, which invariably causes the CO2 to, I do wonder how much, and this is where we really need Chris, how much if you make up gelatin, a gelatin solution, how much oxygen would be captured.
Hi, Chris. Bye, Chris.
Captured within that, within that mixture. So, what kind of impact gelatin a beer kind of has from a contribution to dissolved oxygen?
Okay, now I've got this weird echo in my ear, so I'll try and explain it in very simple terms. The answer is some, but not a lot. Because the reality is, if the gelatin is hot when it goes in there, that headspace is rapidly going to get filled with water vapor. So you're kind of going to be driving the oxygen out anyway. Now, I need to go back to muting myself and find out what the hell's causing this delay, because it's doing my treeing.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I mentioned in the video about doing it that way was just not having to like degas the keg and release all the pressure. And because again, it seems like if you're trying to add something to fine the beer and then you just add, in this case it's fully it's a fully carbonated beer under sort of 15 or 20 psi or something. If you like just go and release all that pressure, it's just going to fire everything back up into suspension. So as far as like trying to clear a beer down, it's like you're sort of going back to square one a bit there, aren't you, if you do that? I've found anyway. So also if you write, like I said on there, if you write at the top of the keg, you might even have it sort of foaming up a bit and coming out the top as well. So
I was impressed at how quickly it just shot straight in. Because it was like usually 30 psi or something like that, or 40 psi.
Yeah, I think it was like 30, 35 or 40 something on the bottle, and the keg was still at, like I said, probably 15. But just it's gone. So
straight in. So if you haven't seen it, go check out the Dudes Brews YouTube channel. It's a cracking little setup, actually.
Coincidental plugging of my latest video.
That was good. And it was like we had 2 videos in short time, so it was like, what's going on here?
Two in 2 days.
Yeah, I know.
It's because there's so many queued up on the editing floor at the minute that I was just like, I've actually finished 2 like together pretty much. So
I think I'm like that as well. I've got about 3 or 4 that are all done, and I just literally need to record tastings and then maybe put some voiceover or something on, and then done. But that's a good point actually today. So that's me now completed being a wedding photographer. So last Saturday was my last gig there. Nice. And so it's great though, because it means I can concentrate more on this and just brewing in general sort of stuff with the YouTube and Hop Edition. So exciting, happy days, and then I can spend some more time with the kids as well, because they just get ignored. No, they don't. But so it's good. It's good that way.
Oh, bless them. Oh, well, congrats. If that's the right term.
Yeah.
Same. Congrats on giving up a second job.
Happy days.
Who knows, Andy? Anyway.
Yeah, no more shiny though.
I'm drinking my black IPA which I originally made for a homebrew competition.
Which one was it? It was the elusive one.
Oh yeah.
So it's a West Coast black IPA. I'm really pleased with it. It's cleared up beautifully. Not sure if you can kind of see that, but plus it's black, so it's hard to see. But you know, when you like clarity on a dark beer, like you think maybe it won't matter, but if you don't, you end up just with a really like muddy puddle kind of. That sort of, it just doesn't look as nice as having a like bright beer. It's actually not. It's black, but not super dark because I added the dark grains in the sparge. So I kind of I enjoy making it
roasty.
Exactly, yeah. So you kind of you try and get the color rather than the flavor. The other way you can approach it is to cold steep your dark grains, and then add the liquid in.
It's almost like cold brew.
At some point during the process, which really limits the amount of the roast character that comes from the dark malts, because you're really just looking for the color and maybe just a slight flavor contribution. The problem that I had with this particular beer, which is maybe the third or fourth black IPA I've made, is I added the dark grains during the sparge, but I didn't feel like it added enough color.
Okay.
To the point where it's probably not going to be black.
Was it an amber?
So it was hard to say because it probably would have gotten darker with the boil. But what I ended up doing was kind of scraping up all the dark malts off the top of the mash, putting them in my old brew in the bag mash bag, and then kind of steeping them for a bit longer, just to try and like add a bit more color, which of course invariably will have added more flavor as well. Yeah. But I don't think it's excessively roasty, to be honest. So I'm really pleased with it. It came in at, I think, somewhere near 6%. Used lots of strata hops. It had a bit of a sulfur issue for some reason or another at the beginning.
That's the second time you've had sulfur issues.
Yeah, I think it may have been I was using too much metabisulfite to avoid oxygen, which obviously added.
How much did you put in?
I think I might have only used like half a cabinet tablet, something like that. But I think I need to be a little bit more careful about actually measuring it out, because I think the taste perception level on that is quite low. So you really do have to be quite careful with the amount that you add. So
I'm trying to remember what the dosing rate is supposed to be.
I think it's 10 parts per million.
Yeah.
So it's really low.
Like 0.3 of a gram rings a bell for
something like that. Yeah.
Like a keg's worth, I think that's.
And I think maybe I ended up adding like half a gram. Yeah. But then I think like I said, the taste perception level is very low because you're adding sulfites, therefore, potentially additional sulfur. But anyway, that's cleared up now. And it's a pretty decent drop. Quite enjoying it. It's got a good rounded but assertive bitterness to it. So it's got that West Coast vibe going on.
What was the burger? Cool.
That would be a good question, Andy. I'd have to look it up. I'm not too sure. I think it came in
0.9.
Yeah, I think it was like 0.86 or something, maybe something like that. Yeah. So I'd have to load up my Brewfather app.
Cool. No, I was just designing a Yakima Chief free hop IPA as such, and I think it was about something like that, about high 0.86, 87, 89, something like that, almost 0.9, which is, I always find 0.8 is a good sweet spot, but I think when you want to do a proper West Coast, you just want that little bit extra. So
yeah, I would agree. Tell a lie, I went 1.2. So way off the mark. So yeah, it was pretty bitter. I added Strata and Centennial as the bittering hop.
Any heartburn issues when you're drinking it?
None that I've found. But I think the dark malt characteristic also adds to that bitterness as well.
Yeah, definitely.
and the two kind of play together quite nicely. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. I might send a few out
Cool.
if you're lucky.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're coming into beer mail season, I think. Maybe start getting stuff bottled up and get it
Beer
sent
mail
out.
season.
Beer mail
The
season. It's
old,
always beer mail season.
The old Secret Santa's going to be having
That's
to
right.
get set up again soon as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, the Secret Santa.
Hopefully,
get some sandalwood.
hopefully somebody will
soon.
sort that out. Oh shit, that's me. Yeah. Okay.
Good luck, mate.
This will be a reminder.
Yeah.
There you go. So, any listeners, if you're based in the UK, there's over in BrewTube, there's a Secret Santa that we do. So you can sign up to that once Tricky obviously sets it all up and posts up the links. But you just put your name in, and then it will automatically link you up with someone else at some point. And then you just
please just read the rules and don't send me constant messages about like what you're supposed to do, because it's fucking simple.
Yeah, you just basically send beer to someone else.
The worst thing about doing that is the amount of people that message me going like, I don't understand. What am I supposed to do? Who am I sending beer to? Am I supposed to? Yeah, it's anyway. But I think a lot of the people who've done it before should have the idea now. So
yeah.
Did I just hear Chris trying to say something then? Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you. Yeah.
I've got it, and it's in my ear, and it's irritating. But I think I might know what's causing it. So, what I need you guys to do is just wave bye-bye to YouTube for about 30 seconds, okay?
Bye.
YouTube will be back. I'm just trying to fix this.
I think they're actually saying that it's sounding better on YouTube now, but if you think you can fix it properly, then I guess we'll stop that.
Okay, chill.
Tricky, is it worth making it clear on the Secret Santa thing that we're either like that you have
we are still live, they can still hear us.
Fine.
That's all right, carry on.
Is it like last year there was a lot of people that got their knickers in the twist because they didn't feedback?
I think I always do put something in the thing about like, you know, post it if you want to, or you know, or do a review if you want to, but it's not, you know, like no pressure either way. But yeah, as you said, a lot of people still get a little bit narked if they don't get any feedback or whatever. So I don't know. Do you think you should make it mandatory feedback, or?
But it's secret, so we don't know who sent you the beer.
Well, yeah.
The ones I got, I didn't know who they were from.
Yeah.
At all. So
Well, no, but that's another thing that I put on the thing is like, you know, if you want to tell people after they've got it, like, oh, those were mine or whatever, then that's fine. If you want to maintain the mystery, then that's fine too. So I don't know. I mean, like, I send mine out with like stickers and stuff, so people obviously know who sent it once they get it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, maybe just make it clear that people are not obligated to provide feedback.
Yeah, put that in bold on the first line of the, you know, the messages.
People won't read it anyway, will they?
And then
that's the problem.
The
people
other one
don't
is,
read the blurb, and then they like just asking you questions.
Someone will send out like 10 of their different beers to someone, and then in return they get like one beer,
one kit beer, bottle of Werry. Yeah, I mean, no. Again, that's the thing. It's like, I'm just like, you know, I'm not going to dictate like exactly what the thing has to consist of, but it's the expectation. It's at least one bottle. But for me, it's like, well, if you're going to send one, you might as well send 3 if they're in plastic, because it costs the same amount of money to post, and then, yeah. So you know, unless you're sending something like extra special, like a real big impy or something like that, does seem a little bit tight if you're only sending one bottle. But
then you might only have. That's the thing. Some people only brew. You know, they'll do 1 or 2 brews on the go. and so they can't send out 8 of the latest
But
beers
hey,
that they've got.
well, exactly. It's a Christmas thing as well, isn't it? It's not,
Yeah,
it's the thought that counts.
exactly.
Well, that's the plan anyway.
Yeah. I think I always try and send out 2 or 3.
Agreed.
Right. Are we just carrying on from
I
where
don't
we
know.
were, or what's?
It's YouTube live.
I think I'm pretty sure we're still on YouTube.
Yeah,
so...
you're live. Crack on.
Okay.
I can't fix it on mine. It's really irritating me. So you guys just do this one. I'll see if I can fix it.
All right, cool. So
is the audio all right for people on the YouTube feed at the minute? Because obviously,
I've got echo galore off you, and then echo coming and going off Andy.
On YouTube?
No, on OBS. So it's going to be on YouTube. And there's people saying that they've got it. So
yeah, the last few messages said the sound is spot on, sounding better, sounding okay at the moment. So
that's a shame.
Don't matter. You guys crack on. I've got no idea what the issue is at this end.
Sound perfect YouTube as of now. Good. Okay.
Cheers, Stewie.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's carry on then. So
we probably need a few pips just so we can probably cut out most of that conversation from the actual edit.
Yeah.
Beep, beep, beep. There you go. Look out for that. Right. It's like the news.
Now seamlessly back into the script. Yeah.
Right. So, guys, beers you've brewed recently that have been interesting, and what has made them interesting? Has it moved on your thinking about brewing? Has it changed the way that you approach brewing? Has it changed the way you think about beer? Andy.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go first. So, recent brew that has been an absolute banger has been my Seaview Sunset version 2. And it's the hops are Amarillo, Sabro, and Mosaic. So what was it? It was 6 grams Magnum, 60 minutes, 16 grams of Amarillo at 10 minutes to go, 16 grams of Sabro at 10 minutes to go. And that's all about trying to build in flavour, I find. A little bit of that sort of body to the flavour of the hops. I think me and Tricky have kind of talked about it a little because I don't know if I was feeling like the Whirlpool editions were bringing everything. So it was just little additions throughout the boil, kind of near the end. And then I've got a Whirlpool of Amarillo, 22 grams of each of Amarillo, Mosaic, and Sabro. And it definitely brings this. It's got the tangerine, but there's this creamy coconut. My brother says it's dead creamy. The beer tastes dead creamy, and I'm guessing that's going to be coming from the Sabro, really. The actual kind of grain bills, 3.7 kilos of pops, 350 grams of the old white wheat, and 120 grams of Munich 1, because that's another thing that I've been trying to experiment with, is to bring a little bit of caramel colour to the beers is by using a bit of Munich. So yeah, that's a recent thing. And then dry hop was 44 grams Sabro, 33 grams Amarillo, and then 22 grams of Mosaic, because Mosaic can be quite pungent. And I think I wanted to try and bring some more of the kind of tropical vibes with the Sabro, and that's why I kind of led with that one. But it is just, it's really, really good. It's a really nice beer. It's dropped quite bright, actually. So, no, it's good. It was brewed with USO 5 as well. And it's, at the start, the Amarillo was bringing a lot of pine notes to it, but that seems to have actually tailored off now, and it just, you know how like beers change over the period? This is one of those ones where the kind of pine's gone and it's just that total tropical sort of thing going on. And the keg is just, because it's the clear keg I've got, you know, was it the Keg King Jr.? I've got one of those, and it's, you can see how that's going down. So yeah, it's ripping right through that, which proves that it must be a good beer. So that's one of mine. What about yourself,
Awesome.
Tricky?
Yeah, well, following on from because you mentioned Sabro on yours, I've done a double IPA kit, all grain kit from Brew Day that they've sent me. There'll be a video coming for that, guys, as well. So look out for that one. But that's really heavy on the Sabro as well. And I've got a bit of a, like I'm not always 100% convinced with Sabro. I'm like, it's one of those hops where I'm like,
Yeah,
sometimes
totally.
I'll try it and I'll be like, oh, that's fucking amazing. And then other times I'm like, not really sure about these, like, sort of, woody kind of herbal notes that you can get off it sometimes.
Yep.
I think it's Neo Mexicanus, isn't it? I think is the group of hops that's from, and there can be quite a strong sort of like sagey kind of woody note to it. Talus, I think, is similar.
That's really bad for it, I find.
And so sometimes I'm not like all that kind of, but in this beer, I don't know whether it's just a combination of the hops. There's some cashmere in with it as well, actually, which I think works really well, and it kind of amps up that like creaminess, I think, that you were talking about. So it definitely gives it a like coconut creamy thing. But then there's a load of I've literally forgotten what the other hops are that are in it, but there's some real nice like pineapple notes in it as well. So it's got this kind of like creamy pineapple sort of, almost like a tropical cocktail kind of vibe to it, which is really nice. And yeah, I had a few issues with the brew in terms of like hitting the numbers and stuff, so it didn't really come out to like dipper strength, but which was a bit weird because I sort of missed the gravity, but there's quite a big whack of dextrose in it, so I was expecting it. The grain bill isn't actually that big relative to what you normally do for a dipper, because a lot of the gravity is made up with the dextrose that goes in, so I wasn't sure how I managed to cock that up. But and then also the yeast didn't really, I ended up adding a little bit of malt extract just to bump it up a bit to try and get that ABV at the end, but then the yeast didn't want to like attenuate all the way down. I thought the FG was a bit optimistic, but then again, bearing in mind it had dextrose in it, it should really have been able to get down pretty low, but it like just stopped at like 10, 17, I think, and just refused to go below that. So it's supposed to get down to like 10, 11 or maybe 10, 12 or something. But so yeah, it was more like top end of IPA strength rather than dipper strength, but the beer's really good, so I'm not like
not worrying,
overly upset about that. And to be honest, not having an 8% plus beer on tap is probably a good thing, like in the long run, just for health and safety.
You go through these mad, I don't know, sometimes I find you just go through these mad inklings like, yes, I want an 8% beer, and then when it's actually on tap, you're just like, oh, do I have to chug through this thing?
Well, the weird thing is, like, I think because it's finished higher, I bought a few cans because it's from Shiny Brewery, the original, and I'd not heard of them before, so I thought I'll buy some cans. R&D, you got to do the research and check it out or whatever. I bought a couple of cans of this particular beer, so I've got one for when I do the sort of tasting for the video and whatnot. Had the other one a couple of weeks ago, but it's like it's a really sort of, I think, again, because of the dextrose in it, it's quite a light sort of dipper as far as the body and mouthfeel. But I think my one, weirdly, because it's finished higher, almost drinks like a bigger beer, even though the ABV is lower, because it seems a bit more thicker and has that kind of like slightly more heavy like body and mouthfeel to it. So
what yeast was
that? So the yeast was the dry version of Vermont, so it was the Sanders.
Yeah.
What
I've got loads of that. WHC Lab.
WHC, that's the one. So and they gave me in the kit, you get like the equivalent to 3 packs of it. So it wasn't like it was because of a measly pitch of the yeast or anything like that. And it is supposed to be really attenuative. So again, I'm not sure why it just sort of went, nah, fuck it, I'm not, not fermenting anymore. Kicked off really quick.
What was your mash temp?
It was a pretty low mash temp as well, as far as I remember. So,
jeez,
yeah, I don't know. It's a bit just one of those ones where it's like I'm not really sure what could have gone wrong there. But yeah, it's thing with yeast in it. Sometimes it just decides it's not gonna carry on. Tried rousing it, warming it up, all the old tricks, and it just stayed where it was. So I was like, fuck it, dry hop, it's going in and crack on. So
see what happens.
But like I said, I don't think it's suffered for it. It's probably gonna be a bit different to the original, but I'm really happy with the flavour from it, and great hop combination on there. So
that's good. No, I did a lager. Was it I think it was at the Motueka lager I was talking about with the size and all that sort of stuff. So that ended up quite a high. Well, I've not properly checked the final gravity, but when I did check, it was like 10-17 or something like that, and it wasn't. It was just taking forever, sort of thing, and so ended up cracking up the temps to about 18 because it's 34.70, and I'm like, that'll be okay. And this is the yeast, right, that I'd left in one of those glass jar things, in the fridge, and I think it was maybe about 6 months old or something. But I'd put it through a starter, and it came back alive again. So I was like, this is all good, smells okay. And so, maybe old yeast is the culprit there, to be honest. But I've kegged it, and then when I've kegged it now, it's got that sort of, I don't know, it's that kind of, it's not fusel, but it's kind of that nail polishy type almost hint.
Oh, yeah.
Just a hint.
I have found that does seem to, like, especially like you say with old yeast, where it's maybe not as healthy as it would have found in the past, that is often the end result, that you get that kind of acetone thing.
Yeah, and there's a bit of banana. There was a bit of banana going on as well. I don't know if 34.78 does that sometimes. I think I've read that it can do a little bit of banana, probably because it is, stressed. So what I'm going to do is I've kegged it. I'll leave it. Just going to leave it for 3 months and just do
Hope for the best.
Do the Budvar method. See if it'll clear itself up.
Yeah.
Doubt it. But, hey ho. What can you lose?
Yeah, it's got to be worth a go. Time's the great healer.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
So I've also been brewing my Yakima Chief hopped Nipa. So kind of it's not entirely cryo hopped, but it's the majority of it is cryo hopped. So Robbie, who we had on the pod, has very kindly hooked me up with some hops to do a brew for a video, and I've done a little like Zoom chat with him that's going to be part of the video as well. So
that's so cool.
It's going to be that little intro of him talking all about cryo hops and what the benefits are of them and how they can be used and everything like that, and then the usual shtick with a bit of brew footage of me tasting the beer, which hopefully will be good. It was quite a long chat I had with him, so there's going to be a bit of editing to do on that one, but so anyway, the beer is in the keg and it's drinking nicely at the minute. The cryo hops smell amazing, like out of the packet and everything. And I think so. Just to give you a little bit of a sort of preview of some of the takeaways from the brew that I did with those. I think we've often talked about, like, obviously like the savings in terms of like volume of beer when you're using cryo hops is probably not that significant for home brewers, but actually, like, with this brew, normally if I do a Nipa like that with, let's say like, I guess 200-300 gram dry hop and loads in the whirlpool and everything, after all your losses and everything in the fermenter and all the rest of it, I'd really struggle generally to get anywhere close to a full keg. So I'd probably be pulling maybe like 17 liters ish on average, I guess, out. And with this one, I got the full keg, and there was probably about another liter, maybe even 2, that I could have got out there from a 23-liter batch. So that was surprising to me, and it was, I think that's considering the amount of money sometimes that you're gonna have to spend on doing a beer of that style with the amount of hopping that's going into it. That is actually a good thing and worth.
See why the commercial would do it.
Yeah, definitely, and exactly. And if you scale that up, you think, well, that's a pretty big, percentage increase on like what you're actually getting for your yield out of the beer and all the rest of it. So that was interesting. And flavor wise, I think I've kind of thinking along the lines of whether it's cryo hops or not, I think there's always going to be this element of like really fine hop particulate in beers like that you have to kind of just get through initially when there is going to be a little bit of greenness to it. So I don't think automatically just using cryo hops is going to completely eliminate any chance for there to be hop burn basically on a beer, and certainly at first there's been a bit of that, but that seems to be going away now. I think you've basically just got to fight your way through a few pints at the bottom of the keg. Maybe just using a floating dip tube on Neepers would be a really good idea to kind of avoid that, so that you're actually drinking
filter on it
from the top,
or a bouncer filter maybe on.
or filtering going in.
I was going to say, so I use the bouncer, and with big heavy hot beers, I don't have the floating dip and the thing, so it's pulling from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But I sometimes have to change that bouncer filter 2 or 3 times, sort of thing, because it will just, the amount of hops it's pulling through.
Yeah.
And the kegs is unreal, because I put the super fine filter on it. So what I'll do is then I'll take it all apart, clean it, flush it again, and then because it's the big one as well, so it's the 46 litre batch sort of thing. So I'll be filling 2 kegs off that, so you can pull quite a lot of hops, because you imagine the dry hop on the bigger batches is quite a lot as well.
Yeah, I've kind of sort of moved away from using the filter as much since basically having the all-rounders with the floating dip in the actual fermenter, because I've not found it's as necessary. But on this one, like I said, it kind of end up pulling so much beer out into the keg that I probably let it run longer than I would have done. So it may have pulled a bit up at the end. I don't know, but so I think filtering and possibly like having a floating dip tube in the keg might be a good idea for those sort of beers, just to avoid pulling that hot particulate out of the bottom of the keg when you first serve them.
See in your floating dips, can you not get a little filter on it as well? So it's like
you can. I'm not sure it would be.
I don't know if I would
enough to really.
And they're super small as well.
And I don't think I'd really want to use one in a fermenter, because what will end up happening is it will get blocked. And then it's like, oh crap, it's in my flipping all-rounder. How do I clean that?
You're fucked then. Yeah.
Totally. So you're then going in, introducing all sorts, and
difficult.
Game over.
On the subject of cryo, Tricky, have you thought about maybe exploring, is it Spectrum that you use in the dry hop?
I think so.
Is it Incognito that you use in the boil or the whirlpool, and then you can use Spectrum in the dry hop?
I think that's right. Yeah. I mean, I guess that would be the next logical step on to try out some stuff like that.
That's it. We need to speak to Bathhouse and get them in.
That's it.
Send us some samples.
So I think the other thing with the cryo is I definitely, and I sort of talked to Robbie about this. We talked to Robbie about this as well on the podcast. The thing about not relying sort of 100% on the cryo hops, because I think there is definitely a flavor element that you're going to get from having the T90s in there. It's like, yes, you want to avoid too much vegetal matter and too much vegetal flavor or grassy flavor coming from those hops, but also I think there is something that's lacking if you're just leaning on cryo hops exclusively in terms of the flavor. It just doesn't quite feel like it's all there, you know.
It's the same with leaf as well, though. I felt like when there's different styles, like say for like traditional lagers, I love using Saz leaf, to be fair, and just put it in one of those brew in the bags. And there is this difference I find, especially that I had Equinaut leaf and then pellet leaf, and the pellet's more harsh.
Mm-hmm.
I think because it is so much more charged, and I think there's, you know, as you go each one removed, there is definitely differences.
I think the vegetable thing adds a dimension to beer that we are used to, isn't it? It adds a certain like kind of structuring to the flavor profile that you expect from beer in a sense. And definitely. I think people that have like made beers purely just with cryo kind of talk about it kind of just lacking depth. I think is the key bit. Like lots of amazing like popping like tropical flavors, but there's no like
depth to the flavor. It's like you almost need something a bit like bitterness. You need the bitterness in order to be able to kind of make the tropical thing kind of enhance it in a sense. You know?
Yeah,
For me,
okay.
it seems to be like you
Just
kind of
the same.
lack a bit of that almost gnarly kind of dankness, you know, like that just bit of like. Go on, Chris.
I think we might have Chris back.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
We can.
Right. Now all the audio on the stream is now completely fixed. The issue is I've still got audio coming out of my ear, which is making it so I can't talk really. I've managed to fix the audio on the stream. All the echoes gone. I just can't talk because I can hear myself like half a second later and it's really irritating.
Okay. Are you recording, Chris?
I'm recording on Audacity, yeah.
Okay.
But there's no point me trying to do it without headphones on.
No.
So
That'd be annoying.
I'm still here. I'm just muting myself.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Enjoy.
I also, just for the record, had to restart my computer because video kicked me for some reason. I couldn't get back in. So I've had to split the Audacity file into...
Okay.
Sorry about that, Tricky.
Fix it in the mix.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, and we can cut out all of this this strange conversation.
Yeah, there's gonna be quite a lot of stuff getting cut out this way.
There might be, yeah, there might be. Cool.
So, Owen, have you talked about your recent brews at all? You probably haven't, been eating and falling off the stream and
yeah, it's not been the most smoother podcast so far.
No,
so apologise to those on the live stream. Probably having to watch me eat my dinner that arrived a little later than planned.
How was the kebabs?
That was really good, actually. Yeah, it was really nice. Super tasty, thanks. So I actually haven't brewed for quite a while. I haven't brewed since about July, I think.
Oh, wow.
I haven't brewed since you guys came down for the competition.
Really? You're trying?
Partly because I had so much beer in preparation for you guys coming down. Plus, you guys left loads of beer with me.
Oh, that's
I just
right.
actually haven't had a necessity to brew in reality. So, but sort of going back to kind of really the last 12 months, as you guys know, and those that have been following along with the podcast have been kind of developing along with my house pale. I've done a number of iterations of that and experimenting in different ways. And the last batch, which was good, but I ended up with a kind of weird bitterness, which I put down to cohumulone contribution from the massive addition of Azaka that I added, both in the whirlpool as well as the dry hop.
Try to get that flavour in. But
yeah, I was keen to kind of really pump in some Azaka, and I think in reality it's a hop that you do need to use quite a lot of, but obviously I used it in the wrong way, and I don't know which element of the additions added that cohumulone element. Whether that was the whirlpool or the dry hop. But it had a kind of slightly weird perceived bitterness.
Yeah.
That you can kind of get from a beer.
The back
it wasn't
of the throat, sort of weird.
Yeah, I think it was.
That's exactly like a whirlpool. I think that sometimes is a no, because you can get it from the dry hop as well, can't you?
You can. And it's not a hop burn.
But it's a late addition hop sort of thing.
It is.
It's a whirlpool dry hop type addition that gives us back of the throat sort of weird bitterness, like you say. Yeah,
it was strange and not something I was expecting from Azaka really. But do
you not find that goes away with age though sometimes?
Yeah, I don't think the cake hung around long enough to.
It's still good enough to drink.
It was definitely. Yeah, I think you guys gave it a pretty good smashing. To be fair, at the weekend you came down.
It was definitely a lot more better than the Conflux. I remember that.
Yeah, it definitely was. It had quite assertive bitterness to it, which is kind of interesting. So that'll be something I'll be keeping a sort of closer eye on, and in a sense, probably getting more intimate with the hop oil makeup of hops. And it's almost getting down to that next level of like nerdery is starting to look at. Probably that survivable compounds piece, and
that's
looking
what
at what oils are
exactly
more heavily kind of contributing from certain hop types, and that allowing me to make better decisions about the type of hops that I choose to use in different stages of the brewing relative to the outcome that I'm looking for from the beer. So that was an interesting kind of, you always learn, as they say, you always learn more from your mistakes perhaps than you do from your failures than you do from your successes. So yeah, that was a good one for me.
On that one, the Azaka, if you look at survivables chart, it's like one of the least survivables, and they say if you're going to use Azaka, use it in a dry hop. Don't put it in like the whirlpool or anything
which
like
would
that.
kind of remove the issue with cohumulone because it's not in the boil anyway, wouldn't it? So it's kind of working on both levels there.
Yeah.
Somebody had a chart or a list of high cohumulone hops, did they not?
Yeah, I found it on Google. I think if you just Google kind of cohumulone levels in hops, and there was a sort of reasonably robust list on which were the worst.
Definitely something to be looking at as a reference going forwards for me as well, because it's not something I'd ever really thought. I knew of a few hops like Chinook and a couple of others where it's fairly well publicized that's the case with them, but I'd never really thought about maybe that being an issue with some of the big, the newer big kind of aroma hops as well. That was total news to me that Azaka was.
Where would you use Chinook?
I just generally don't. To be honest, it's not.
I like Chinook. I like Chinook. I think it's quite an aggressive hop. You have to be careful with it. I think you can use it at any point during the brewing process.
Yeah.
I think you can bitter with Chinook, although I don't think it's an enormously popular bittering hop. But you can put it through the boil, put it in the whirlpool, put it in the dry hop.
Yeah.
It's just something you have
really piney in the dry hop.
You have to be quite reserved with it.
Yeah, 100%. Don't get me wrong. I've had loads of like commercial beers with Chinook in that I've really, really enjoyed, and I've even had like kind of all Chinook beers that I thought were great. But it's just one of those, when I've tried to use it myself, I've always kind of struggled to get out of it what I wanted to.
I've got 50 grams of it, right, from Robbie with the Yakima stuff. And I'm using it in this IPA, and I thought what I'll do is I'll use it at the 20-minute sort of edition in the boil. So it's still kind of giving to the bitterness more and a little bit of kind of flavour, rather than I found when I put it in the pale fire. Remember that it was just in the dry hop. It was just insane pine. It was like drinking pine cones.
Yeah,
it was
super
that bad.
resiny.
Yeah,
I think you went pretty big on that Chinook edition, though, didn't you? I think from memory. I remember Timmy sending me I think it was it was either Citron Chinook or it was an all Chinook Nipah. So and I'm pretty sure he used his normal formula, so he'd used
like
what would have been
grams.
200 grams in the whirlpool,
200 whirlpool, 300
in the dry hop. So it was half a kilo of Chinook, as far as I know, and it wasn't super piney, and it wasn't like undrinkable, but it just had a really weird flavor profile, like not what you'd expect from a Nipah at all. It was very, very odd. So that was kind of interesting. So I don't know what else. Oh, so obviously I brewed my competition Hellas and got first place at the log competition, and then I went to rebrew that beer. A little dance. And I went to rebrew that beer, and I changed
catastrophic results.
Well,
Turns out he was just lucky.
You say that. I mean, I made some very minor changes to the malt bill.
You don't know.
I used melanoidin malt rather than biscuit malt. As the kind of specialty contribution, which, to be honest, isn't enormously different. I used a German lager yeast rather than a Czech lager yeast.
Yeah.
and I ended up overshooting as well. So it came in kind of at 5.6, 5.7%.
It's a bit strong, isn't it?
Export hellers.
Yeah, it's kind of almost a Maybach kind of territory, really. And it wasn't because of that additional ABV. I think it just took a lot of extra lagering, and it's just been sat in the Keezer for quite some time. But I've now kind of, it must be getting on probably 4 or 5 months, maybe even 6.
Oh, nice.
And I've got loads of it left in the keg, and I've just started drinking it, and it's absolutely
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really, really good.
Is it going to a competition, or is it just for personal?
I haven't got any competitions to enter.
That's your first beer, Owen. That's your first beer, mate.
Yeah, that's my first beer. So you guys might well get a bottle of that as well.
That's
coincidentally,
cool.
I've actually rebrewed the hellers that I put into the same comp as well, and I am going to send mine one off to BrewCon, or the BrewCon World Series, as it's called. And I think, I've kind of done a similar thing. I've just tried to leave it in the keg for as long as possible and try and get that proper lagering in. It's definitely benefited from that. I don't think there's any lager that won't, to be honest. But
yeah, exactly.
So I slightly pinched one of your ideas as far as adding a little bit of extra speciality malt into it. So I went with what did I use? Aromatic malt.
Oh yeah.
But again, it's kind of in that same sort of ballpark as like biscuit or melanoidin, as far as a sort of like 50 to 100 ish sort of EBC, and it's supposed to add a bit of extra malty flavor and whatnot. So I thought I'd try that out. That seems to have worked all right. And I used diamond lager yeast in it as well.
I like diamond lager yeast.
Diamond lager yeast is really good.
Good.
It works really well under pressure. I think you can push the temperature on it. Don't know about if you can do that when it's not under pressure, but certainly under pressure, I've fermented it fairly warm and it's gone really well. Big advantage for me over 3470. It seems to drop clear much easier and much quicker. And it's just a nice balance between sort of hop presence and maltiness. So yeah, it's really good. Really good dry.
That's Lallemand, isn't it?
Yes,
Lallemand,
yes.
I was just trying to look up what equivalent that is, but
is it a German?
I'm pretty sure it's Weihenstephaner.
I don't know, because it seems like characteristic wise, it seems quite different to 3470, which is supposed to be the Weihenstephaner lager yeast.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do say that. A lot of people say it's the same thing, but I'm not. I think it's something else, because it's just based on the
results.
Or is it the
I've heard people say Munich, one of the sort of Munich yeasts, but
or is it the Czech yeast?
Could be.
Does the Lallemand not do a Munich?
No, it says Diamond Lager is a true lager strain from Germany, so it's definitely a German lager strain.
Yeah. Very cool.
So I'm not exactly sure which one it is. Aromatic malt's an interesting one, because I think there's only 2 maltsters that do it, and there's one that you obviously used that is like 50, 60 EBC, and the other version that comes from a Belgian maltster, pretty sure that's like 250, 260
EBC.
Yeah, there's a much darker version of it.
Yeah, it's a Cara Aroma. I've got some in the house. Tastes amazing.
Yeah, I've used that version a few times in different beers, and that's a really nice malt.
I used it in my Holcomb. I think I asked for aromatic, and I had Cara Amarat, or whatever it was. I can't remember, but yeah.
Love it. So yeah, I mean, it was weird, because I think when I also entered that competition, Hellas that I made for the lab thing it had hardly any lagering at all. I think it was only in the keg for like 2 or 3 weeks before I bottled it, so it was actually super fresh.
Yeah.
It managed to drop reasonably clear. It wasn't crystal clear, but it was interesting the fact that it's submitting like a pretty fresh lager, which has a certain kind of characteristic versus a really well lagered lager. So I wondered if that kind of played into why it scored well. Weirdly, which is not what you expect, but sometimes like you wouldn't leave any other beer for 6 months in a keg other than maybe like something high ABV that you would be wanting to condition that long.
Oh, your impy.
Yeah, so I guess anything hoppy, you'd be like, that would be really diminishing after 6 months in a keg, whereas like a lager, you're like, that's tasting better and better.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's strange stuff.
That's cool.
Got any other beers? Any interesting bits and bobs from what you've brewed?
I just did my stout, an oatmeal stout, and it's talking about competitions and the so it's wet hopped with the fuggles that grows in the garden. So actually this year I got 600 grams, which was enough to do all the hot side additions for the stout. So I think it was 400 grams at 90, and then I think at 20 minutes or 10 minutes to go or something, I had the rest of 200 grams with that. And so it was an oatmeal stout, so like a kilo of oats and stuff like that in it. And
nice.
Big. So I think I say big. It's like I think it was like 5.6. I was kind of targeting. I think it's going to be about maybe 5.2. We'll see where it's coming. But I used is it Bjorn or something like that. It's the Celtic or whatever ale yeast that Cross Maloof do. So it's got slightly a lower attenuation. So it should have some residual. Hopefully, it will have a bit of body to it. Which
okay, yeah, I was reading about that one earlier actually, suggesting that it's good for producing low ABV beers because of its low attenuation, or high attenuation. No, low attenuation.
Yeah, I got 2 packets of it, and I just chucked it into the 23 litre batch sort of thing, and it kicked off quite happily. It was going like a rocket. So
did you, out of interest, did you toast the oats?
No.
Which is a good tip that I read many years ago. When you come to make an oatmeal stout, is to put the oats in the oven.
Ooh.
To kind of toast them up.
Yeah.
Just to get like an additional kind of nuttiness.
To get that, Owen, because I read the description, it was talking about nuttiness, and I was like, Golden Naked Oats by Simpsons gives you that kind of nutty sort of thing.
Yeah,
so I chucked in what I had left to that, basically. That went in as well to get the nuttiness thing.
Yeah. And I suspect actually that's what they've done, haven't they? They've effectively kilned the oat malt.
Probably, yeah.
Right,
actually.
so then that's why it kind of gives that oat contribution. So a good tip is when you do particularly a stout, where you want that kind of extra flavour complexity, because oats really don't have a great deal of flavour.
No, it's just
they're quite a bland malt, really, aren't they?
Yeah, just brings a bit of body. Maybe.
Brings protein and body. So if you chuck them in the oven and toast them for a bit, it can. Do some wonders flavours.
Yeah, I've tried that with the toasting oats, and it's you can just tell by the aroma that comes off them out the oven. You get that like cookie. Oatmeal cookie kind of thing, and I was just like eating them straight off the tray because it was that good. But yeah, it definitely makes a difference and adds a little bit of extra flavour to it that you wouldn't get otherwise. I think
like a flapjack stout.
Yeah, that's what you want. That sounds amazing.
I fucking love flapjack.
So good.
Yeah.
Might do
a flapjack MP.
I thought you were going to say I'll need to tell the missus to go get
bunch of golden syrup in there, loads of oats.
Yeah.
What else would you put in there to get that
bit of vanilla?
Vanilla,
maybe. Oh, you want sort of a toffee kind of vibe, don't you? You need some burnt toffee vibes. Maybe you could get that through the malt. Crystals. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so some extra dark, not maybe. I think toffee
biscuit malt, maybe.
Toffee you tend to get from light crystal, I think, rather than extra dark crystal. I think extra
Actually
dark
get
crystal
fruits.
tends to add more of kind of maybe dark fruits. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one to mull over.
So that's in the fermenter just now. But what I was going to say oats. So I bought a big massive sack of, I think it's torrefied oats. It's got the husks and all that sort of thing to help with the is it the loitering or what's it?
Loutering.
Loitering.
It's not loitering. That's
It's
a
not
that's a
loitering
different
about.
thing.
It's the
That's what you
opposite.
used to do as a teenager.
Yeah, so, but I'm not getting, see my efficiency when I use those oats, any beer I use those oats, and the efficiency, I don't know if Brewfather's over, saying there's going to be loads of sugars from it, but there just isn't. Like, it's, and you can't put it through the mill. The mill doesn't want to touch it.
Yeah.
It won't pull it. So you can't really crush them up either. So my efficiency would be normally maybe 80. 85 for like a kind of low ABV, 80, 75. Well, this thing, I think it was 69% or 70% efficiency.
Yeah.
It's...
So you may actually not be getting anything out of that malt at all in terms of addition. I think with some cereals, aren't you supposed to almost like pre-cook them and gelatinize them? Because when you get like rolled oats, they've been pre-gelatinized and then rolled.
There's a lot of stuff that says that shouldn't be an issue with them, but like Andy says, it seems like
my
has an effect.
My experience is the same as you, Andy. Whenever I've used oat malt, or even to some extent golden naked oats, just get terrible efficiency.
Yeah,
but it can be the effect that it's having on the actual mash itself. I guess maybe if it's just slowing up the,
I mean,
flow of liquid through it or something, maybe. But you'd think that wouldn't account
mine's
for quite that big a
mine's
difference.
is Hermsen as well, so it's getting that sort of mix.
But you don't get any issue with it being more sticky or not flowing through.
No, none of that.
Yeah, because you'd think like you'd see that if that was the reason for the efficiency drop, wouldn't you? You'd see that it was not actually flowing through properly or whatever. But
yeah,
I don't know.
That SS Brewtech 10-gallon pot I've got for the mash is brilliant. I've never had a stuck mash or anything like that. And the way the pumps work, it just pulls it anyway, sort of thing. It's just, I don't know. I don't really get stuck mashes with that pot. But as I think, see, maybe a stuck mash is maybe a problem where you're not using a pump, you're using gravity to pull, or have you had issues with stuck mashes?
I don't recirculate in my mash tun, but like the way I've got it with the pretty much massively sort of oversized ton for most of the beers that I'm making, so it's quite a wide, I guess.
It's like 50 litre, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 50 litre. Yeah. So for most of the beers that I'm brewing for like a 20 or 23 litre batch size, that's a pretty shallow mash bed. I've also got the mash bag in there as well as the false bottom, and with that sort of arrangement, it just doesn't seem to matter what I put in there. It doesn't get sticky to the point of stopping the wort flowing through it. And I will recirculate at the end, so I do use the pump at the end of the mash to basically, I guess effectively it's a sort of lautering type step. And when I do the batch sparging as well, so my mashing process is sort of a weird kind of hybrid.
Yeah, old school.
Do you know what I mean?
I used to do that. Yeah,
it's kind of what you would be doing with the jug, but just using the pump instead.
And then you mix it all up again, and then let it sit for 15, and then
we have a guest. Hi, Jack.
Brilliant. No, it's there's different ways, but I don't think you can get. I'm not sure you get such a high brewhouse efficiency with the
batch sparging.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I think I find
it's just quicker
with the it's definitely quicker with the sort of low ABV beers. I can still hit like 80%. Quite comfortably. I think for me, I think the difference is when you're not recirculating as you go up in ABV, especially because you have less sparge water to rinse it through with. I think the kind of drop off in terms of efficiency is a little bit more steep for me. So like and that might have been part of the issue that I had with the dipper kit. I think when you go up to the higher gravities, it just seems like that efficiency sort of line just kind of goes off a bit of a cliff edge for me anyway. I do struggle getting the similar sort of efficiency for the session beers as I would on anything that's kind of, I guess, probably like 1065 upwards is a bit of a tipping point for me, where it becomes a little bit like I've got to start thinking about dropping it back to sort of 70%.
Yeah, I do that as well. Yeah.
What's what I've observed the same thing. I'm pretty sure we all have.
Yeah.
Why do we think that happens?
I think part of it is purely just down to the fact you're not rinsing it through with as much sparge water.
The saturation point of the liquid as well.
It's more saturated, so the liquid becomes more viscous because of the higher sugar content. So it doesn't, there's less solution for the sugar to go into.
The only way I think you could try and improve it is if you did a 90-minute boil, and then that gave you a much larger kind of sparge. More sparge volume. But then you're going to end up, if it's an IPA, it's going to end up darker because you're boiling it for longer and stuff like that. So it's counterintuitive, I think.
Yeah, I've thought about increasing the mash time and stuff, but I'm just like, fuck that. I'd rather just put more grain in than wait an extra half hour or an hour to leave it. So
just design it so it's got
it's like if I know where it is going to likely hit. I mean, I guess that's the main issue with me is sometimes I just don't think to adjust, and that's when I'm like, oh shit, I've missed it by quite a margin there. But when I do, I can generally get it in the ballpark, and then like you say, it's just a case of
future
few hundred grams.
Future Chicky is saying thank you very much for making a lower ABV beer.
I wonder if there's like you could calculate a scale for how much, so how much your efficiency drops off as the OG increases.
It's almost like that should be built into the bloody software.
There must be a relationship, right?
Yeah.
I'd imagine you'd be able to profile it and then build it into Brewfather or
I guess that's one area where kind of all the brewing software doesn't really address, does it? It's like it's still up to you to basically record that and sort of manually adjust that at all times, rather than there being any kind of automatic compensation for the OG being higher. But yeah, there must be some way of getting that, even if it's just you sort of entering some readings into the software initially, and then it kind of calculates that curve for you and will adjust sort of automatically. That's one for the Brewfather suggestion box, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, it would be quite handy. But definitely one for our listeners in terms of a thing to be aware of, to then think about adjusting your efficiency and then increasing your grist amount to compensate. Yeah, that's a good one. So moving on from beers that we've brewed in the last kind of year or so, what about beers we've drunk recently that have inspired us to brew? If you had cracked any commercial beers that you thought, and it just gets I had a beer recently that I had from Daya, which was a raspberry Berliner Weiss, and it was 3.4% maybe, and it just like, the synapses in my head was just like, it just immediately made me go, I really want to make a beer like this. And it was the color was like this beautiful, it was hazy, it was a hazy beer, but it was this hazy pink, really cool looking beer, and it's inspiring me to make a fruited Berliner Weiss, but I'm thinking about doing something a little bit different with it rather than just a straight Berliner Weiss. So I want to go like a low ABV fruited sour, but I'm thinking about sort of maybe adding some lactose to it to kind of get more of like almost a pastry sour.
Mm-hmm.
So like a low ABV fruited pastry sour. If it is a pastry sour, it probably just end up being a kind of big, heavy-bodied, sweet but sour fruited beer.
What was the one you did on? Was it the three fruited one?
That was my triple fruited goza.
Yeah, that was almost like what I expect from that sort. What you're talking about, that sort of tangy, fruited. Yeah, that was
a nice beer, wasn't it?
very.
I think you can put, you can put a bit of lactose in it just to help with the balance before you get to the point of it even being really, considered a pastry sour anyway. The lime goes that I brought some bottles up to yours for the thing that had some lactose in it. It wasn't a huge amount. I'm just going to try and see if I can find the recipe for that. But yeah, I think that was just in there really just to balance the fact that there was 14 limes worth of juice and zest in there, plus plus the obviously the souring from the yeast as well. And it was just to help to sort of make that drinkable. But I really like that beer. It's it has finally gone now. It took me a while. It wasn't because it was a difficult beer to drink. It was just like, it was the first time I had a sour on tap, and you just don't get on a sesh with the sour beers. Do you sort of go and have a little drink of it? And go, oh, that's a nice palate cleanser. Now I'm going to switch over to the other. The
tends to stick about for 6 months.
That's it. It was great all the way through. Didn't suffer for it or anything like that. So it had 340 grams of lactose in it, which was like 6.2% of the grist. So I don't really know whether that's...
So that's quite a big contribution of lactose. That's much more than I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. It's not like insignificant, is it? It's a fairly decent whack of lactose in there. But yeah, like I said, 14 limes and their juice. So you get a hell of a lot of acid out of that.
Yeah, it's
plus
just,
the Philly sour.
You needed that just to make it drinkable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, any beers you've drunk and you've just gone, yes, that sent you off in the direction to want to brew something similar? Or
the problem is, those track beers that we get sent, and it's like, I'm never going to be able to match this up because it was just, it's so insane. It's like, it's all obviously it's get like cryo this and that sort of thing. And I'm like, is that where I need to go now for the future?
Check 1, 2.
Of the kind of.
I think I fixed it.
Way I want to go.
Me.
I fixed
Chris
it.
is back.
Fucking hell! It's only taken me an hour and 20 minutes.
Jeez, oh Chris.
Wow.
Well, shit! I better get a
let's
beer.
Let's just check you haven't fucked it for the people on YouTube first, because
I don't give a shit about them. It works for them.
Check.
Chris is jumping at the bit to get on.
Yeah. It's like beer time. I thought you had a cold, Chris, and you weren't going to be able to drink tonight.
I have got a cold, and I do feel like crap, but fuck if I haven't earned this beer.
Well done, mate.
He's going to battle through. That's the spirit, son.
I need a clean glass. Give me a sec.
Well,
now.
In the chat.
So sorry, Andy. Were you about to say a beer that you've drunk that's inspired you, or?
Oh, I don't know.
Shit.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about the track beers, wasn't I? So it's the track.
Oh yes, you were. Sorry,
but it's just like I just feel like I'm never going to get to that point. And I've also learned my lesson, which we were talking about, is having an 8% keg of beer.
The danger beer.
It's just. You know what? It's just too much. I think what I'll do is I'll leave it to track, and then I can just buy track beers when I want those kind of beers, and then I'll brew all the pales and the lagers and the stouts and the bitters, and maybe just leave the NEPAs. Or I'll probably do a NEPA once a year or something like that. But
I'm kind of with you. I'm like, I'm definitely inspired by some of those dippers, but the thought of having one of those beers like on tap is just like that's like kamikaze stuff, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I'm not. That's the problem, right? I'm not sure. I'd shoot for an 8% NEPA. I'd probably go 6%. Just. I think that's that tipping point where you get a good level of body that then makes it like semi-drinkable rather than like practically undrinkable.
You get the flavors, yeah,
because you're never going to get through 19 litres of 8% beer.
Or you do
whilst it's fresh, you know.
Yeah, or it's in its best condition, no way.
Or I take it to Dale's house and get other boys to help me drink it. We do it in a night.
Well, there is that option, yeah.
And everyone's absolutely smashed at the end.
And
then sleep destroyed.
Wake up in a room full of naked Scotsmen the next day, yeah.
Oh man.
Naked house party.
Smells like a haggis that's been rolled in a turd.
That was London Craft Beer Festival. Pretty much it.
Yeah,
I know, we saw the pictures.
Yeah,
concerning.
And video.
Too hot.
Yeah.
Oh, grim. I've got a real hankering. I've got a real hankering for making a NEPA. Actually, it's been age since I've made one, but I've been primarily focusing more on the hazy pale ale rather than the bigger NEPA. But
smashables.
Kind of keen to sort of break that back out and see what I can do with it. I think that'd be fun.
Anyway, what have you boys been talking about?
Oh, we've been just chatting stuff. We were just talking about beers we've drunk recently that have inspired us to brew. Chris, any beers that you've had, commercial beers or other people's beers?
Yes, there's one beer that I've had that has inspired me to brew. The only issue is I'm planning on having it as my commercial.
Oh.
Because I actually got a couple of cans of it.
I reckon all I'll say beer, then.
All I'll say is that it's a Mosaic and Sabro Pale Ale.
Oh, ding ding!
And the reason why it's inspired me is not so much because of the hops. I mean, hops are hops, but it's all about the malt flavor that I get from it.
Right.
And I know you guys take the piss out of me and all this sort of shit, but there are times when this thing really comes in handy.
Yep.
Put a really fruity sort of liquid in this, have a few puffs, and then drink the beer, and all the fruit gets cancelled, and you can taste the malt on the back end. And the malt's really nice.
Well, maybe some Simpsons Golden Promise or something in there.
I don't know what it is, but it's really, really nice. So
it's that extra tasty Pilsner malt, I reckon.
Owen, you're very quiet.
Did you mute yourself?
You were slagging me off there, weren't you? And now you've got to do it with the microphone turned on.
I was just agreeing with you about
Yeah. I think wait, that weird echo's back. I'm gonna have to go.
He's out.
Bye.
Thank goodness.
Nice. So we're gonna have to wait with bated breath then to hear about what actually that beer is.
Yeah.
For the commercial break.
Yeah.
So, any other beers that have spring to mind in terms of stuff that's inspired you to brew?
Go on, Trick.
I was just going to say, out of the beers that I got from Shiny Brewery, the brewery that makes the Praise the Sun Dipper that I was talking about before, they have a pale ale called Crush, which is a kind of hazy pale ale, but it's got this it's kind of like a bit of a hybrid, sort of like to me, flavor-wise anyway, had a sort of bit of a hybrid flavor, sort of West Coast, kind of hazy. It was super like grapefruity, bright, sort of citrus flavor. I think, it was kind of like a crushable hazy pale, but with a real nice zesty kind of citrusy flavor there. So I don't know what exactly there was in it hops-wise, but it had, to me anyway, like a real nice... more classic kind of American hop flavor to it, but at the same time, some of that nice like hazy session beer kind of drinkability as well. So that was just one where I just thought, I'd really like to make a beer like that if I could make like a house sort of house pale, like the sort of thing that you've been working towards. And it would probably be along those sort of lines for me. So Worth a go if anyone sees that at any point. So yeah.
Well,
Other than that, can't think of anything at the minute.
The irony of the pursuit for the house pale is now I've brewed conflux. It's just like I might as well just brew the conflux.
You're like, oh, somebody's already done that job for me.
Someone's done it. They're right, and they've come up with a better recipe. So
yeah,
maybe I'll just give up on that pursuit.
Would you add any other hops to it though, Owen?
Maybe I'd kind of take the conflux recipe and just play around with the hop combinations and kind of keep the additions similar and see what experimentation that might bring. But I think something else that I've kind of started to drink probably more of in the last 12 months is more kind of mixed fermentation. Now, I don't know if this just simply my tastes have started to shift in that direction, or there is more breweries producing that kind of type of beer. I don't know, because it might just be my direction. But kind of bretted beers and that kind of thing. And I'm
farmhouse.
The farmhouse thing. I'm keen on perhaps trying to make like a bretted lager. And like you say, like put it in a keg for sort of 6 months and just see what happens. But that's just off the top of my head. That's what I've been thinking about the last like 2 days, and I've done zero research on it. There might be a very good reason why you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, probably.
But I don't know.
Cool.
I'm shooting from the hip. So, guys, what about? Let's change tact. Let's talk a bit about what have you changed in your brewing process. What have you added, taken out, done differently, even if they haven't worked?
Changed. Counterflow chilling.
All right.
Chris, you're shaking your head because you're the exact same.
Sent mine back.
Well, he has, but he hasn't, because he realised that the mighty twin chiller cannot be defeated.
That's the thing.
It's true. You laugh, but it's true.
No, I literally did the maths. The twin chiller is approximately 40% more efficient.
Yeah, I would believe that as well. So I got the counterflow recently, and I've probably done about 2 or 3 brews with it. And with my size of brewery, I'd say it makes more sense because the immersion. Someone's just dropped
another one to edit out there, Tricky.
So the immersion.
I've got a fart filter plug in. Don't worry.
My immersion chiller wasn't the best. It wasn't a twin chiller or a Graham Hughes beast chiller, should I say? So instead of pissing about with that, I got a stainless one from the malt miller, and it's good. It's not like absolute game changing. I mean, the first time I used it was in the hottest day of the year in Scotland, which is probably just above freezing. But no, it did the job. And the good thing is I've still got the glycol as well to bring it down from, if I kind of give up at 30 degrees or whatever, I can just drop it in the glycol, which is in the summers quite more likely. Whereas now I can get it down to 20 degrees, no bother, straight in sort of thing. So yeah, that was kind of changed, but things that there's different now. Now I've got different dynamics with that because all of a sudden you've got all this extra beer in the coil that you're losing. So you're losing from your brew house, you're losing that. And the other thing is I was using the garden hose that's beside the house, and that run and then going through this coil and then putting it out I put it to, there's a toilet in the back, so I just took it in there and it just dumps all the hot water in there. But it's maybe the pressure's not as good anymore. So I need to probably get a direct connection from my water where I've got a connection straight into my the hot liquor tank. I need to probably take a spur off that with a garden hose connector and a tap, and then I can just plug it straight in right next to, and and then I'll get much better pressure. And I think that'll probably improve the cooling efficiency of the chiller as well a lot more. So that's the wee changes. I've messed about with mashing and stuff like that recently. I think we've talked about it in previous pods, but yeah, that's probably the latest.
Yeah, I think on that subject, like on my pale ale house pale ale journey, it's like experimenting with like pretty high mash temperatures, you know, into like the 70-degree mark, 71.
Yep.
With good success, actually. I think,
Yeah.
you know, and we're keen to do an episode, be it maybe a short one on low ABV beers. So if anyone's interested, tune in for that one. And this will probably feature as a part of that conversation. But, you know, if you're shooting for a low ABV beer, high mash temps can be a real help if you're looking for a beer that doesn't dry out too much. So that's been fun.
Cool.
It's been fun. I talked a bit earlier about my my problems with using too much Campden tablet, but I think something that I've been testing out is using metabisulfite Campden tablet, typically adding that alongside a dry hop. So probably two or 3 days before kegging the beer, just as an oxygen scrubber to kind of keep the beer fresher for longer, particularly useful for very hop forward beers. And also we've talked about the use of aromazine. I may not have had great experiments with that so far, but I'm pretty keen to
keep trying
have a go with using it more appropriately. So still got some, and I think I'm gonna test that out on my next kind of hop forward beer and add it, you know, maybe even pitch it with the yeast
at the right point. Is that what you're saying?
At the correct point, yeah. So in theory, that should start to kind of squeeze more out the what's residual from the whirlpool, but also in preparation for when you add the dry hop and potentially squeeze out kind of more from those hops as you add them. So kind of just be sat there throughout fermentation. I don't know what effect that might have on the kind of fermentation itself. That'd probably be a question for Chris, to be honest with you. But, you know, would it dry the beer out more? Maybe. I don't know.
What, using
What do you
a
reckon,
Campden
Chris?
tablet?
No, using aromazine.
It shouldn't promote additional sugar metabolism, since it's not an enzyme that has anything to do with sugar as such. No, I can't see that happening unless you've got proteosaccharide binding at roughly the same site, in which case it probably theoretically could, but it shouldn't dry your beer out anymore. You shouldn't get a lower finishing gravity just because you've used aromazine.
Cool. Well, that's reassuring. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. There we go. Could I jump in here?
Go for it.
Ahead.
So, I actually did a brew about 6 days ago, 5-6 days ago. It's sitting in the fermenter at the minute. Yeah, I managed to get a brewing. Incidentally, there was something going off in London on that day. Don't know what it was.
That's the same day I brewed as well.
I've got no idea what was going off in London. There were a lot of people and some long car journey. Anyway,
I had it on the TV whilst I was brewing, mate.
Yeah,
so...
the wife was watching it. To be fair,
yeah.
For me, it was a completely experimental brew. So I have used a really high mash temperature. I went in at 71 degrees.
Yeah.
I used wheat. I used a very small amount of flaked oats, not very many, but a small amount. And I've used a yeast which, in every single use that I've used it, has finished at around about 10-12. So I'm aiming for a 2.8% table beer that drinks like it's about 4.5.
Oh, Chris.
Right? Now, I know that I talk about a lot of things with you guys, but recently I've not had much time to talk to you guys because I've been so busy and the kids and life and back to work and blah, blah, blah. And generally just wanting some space from everything.
Yeah.
But what happens when I do that is the old cogs start turning in the head, the hamster gets woken up and fed, and then eventually I come up with some ideas. And I thought, if I can produce a beer at around about 2.8%, which drinks like it's about 4.5, has that body, has that good head retention, and essentially is just a really, really good table beer, then I can take the process and I can apply it to 3 different styles of beer. So I want to be able to produce a Saison, which is somewhere around about 2.5. I also want to try then and produce a stout, which drinks like it's a 5%er, you know, like a proper hefty stout, but is around about the 2.5% mark. So I'm going to take the process and see where we end up. But this is a purely experimental beer. I only brewed, I think I ended up with about 18 or 19 litres in the fermenter. So we'll see where we'll see where we go from there.
Chris, what was your OG?
Oh God, what was it, like 1034, I think, 1035 maybe.
Yeah.
It wasn't particularly high. And the calculators basically said if it ends up at around about 10, 12, 10, 13, then I should end up with the beer at around about 2.8, maybe 2.9%.
But just as an observation, though, if you've used that yeast and it's more often than not finished at 10, 12, but on a beer that you might mashed at 67, what do you think the finishing gravity is going to be if you mashed it at 71?
I'm expecting around about 10-15, 10-16.
But it won't. It won't, will it? Because it's got less sugars. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. What was the yeast?
It's one of the lager yeast, so it's a complete hybrid beer. So
excellent.
It's one of the lager yeast that I've used. I can't remember which. Hang on, let me have a look. I ain't installed Brewfather yet. It's one of I can't remember if it's Global or Munich. It's one of the two. But every time I use it, it ends up around 10-12. So if it works the way that I want it to work, I should end up with a 2.8% beer that drinks like it's about 4.5. And if I don't, the drains will be getting cleaned.
Fair. Right then. Fair. Has everyone else been?
Yeah.
I haven't made any major changes to process really recently. There's quite a few things that other people have talked about that I'm intending to try out at some point as well, like the higher mash temperatures and whatnot. But one small change that I've done is just in terms of water additions. I used to kind of do the thing with splitting them between the mash and the sparge water, and now I just basically throw it all in at the mash, rather than splitting it. And I found that way you get more of the pH correction from the minerals, so you actually have to use a little bit less, not much, but a little bit less acid going in as well, and it's just easier and quicker and more convenient. So that's what I do. That's why I do it. And it seems to be not having any noticeable, effect on the beer in a negative sense. So it's that's working well for me.
Oh, that's exactly.
Have you always done it that way,
Andy, not at the start. I think I used to split it back in the early days, but since I've been brewing it in the garage for as far as I remember, it helps with like you say, it helps with the pH. So what I found is the bigger additions in the mash that helped to drive down my pH, and then I can hit it a lot easier, sort of thing. So that's good. And then obviously
at one point I just added it all into the hot liquor tank in one go. But I found that was a pain in the arse in terms of actually just getting it to like dissolve properly, because it would a lot, especially the like gypsum and stuff, would just sink to the bottom, and then you'd have to stand there stirring it for ages. So, and then I was splitting it between the two, and then I thought, well, why don't I just do that, adding it all at once, but in the mash rather than the other way. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Huge shout out to somebody who's a first time poster on the live chat, Johnny Sherburn. The chat message is up on the screen right now, and he said, "Legends, love the podcast and keep up the good work." Well, that's the aim, Johnny. That's aim.
Definitely worth a highlighted comment. That one.
I just have done. It's on the screen. Yeah.
Nice.
Cheers, Johnny.
Cool.
So yeah, nothing else from me on that front as far as process changes.
Apart from your shooter, your gelatin shooter.
Oh well, yeah, good point. Actually, that is, I guess that's part of the process.
Wait there, Tricky, have you got video on that, mate?
That. I have, coincidentally, but
what a fucking surprise!
We talked about that earlier. Yeah, that's it. To be fair, if there were any noticeable process changes, there'd already been a video.
Tricky's just searching for that next mini keg.
That's it. Oh no, that's, I peaked too early.
Mini keg video.
Now to.
I seen someone else caught one of the other home brewers put up his mini keg video. He's
There's been a few.
Get the views.
Trying to steal a bit of my shine.
steal a few subscribers.
You're too late, lads. Ain't getting in on the algorithm,
like
and there's 100k views on mine already.
I feel like you're getting like diminishing returns. It's like the new video is man attaches pet bottle to keg.
Yeah, that's it. It didn't seem to go viral like the last
It's the simple things.
Yeah, that's what she said. Before we take a hard right turn down Commercial Avenue, can I just say, is there anything that you guys have, and just literally one thing that you're thinking of, that you're planning on applying to your next brew that you think is going to make a difference? Because I have one. A lot of reading was done after the podcast where we had Hoddy on.
Oh yeah,
because he was talking about
process
altering the pH in order to basically get a thicker tasting beer. Essentially, is what he was talking about. So altering the pH to make, number one, the hops pop a little bit more, but also to make the beer, the mouthfeel just feel a little bit different. One of the things that I've discovered, and I know that this is an old one, is there are a lot of people when they brew lagers, they brew it at, or they mash at a much lower pH than like the standard 5.2 to 5.5. There's people mashing at like 4.8 and 5 when it comes to lager mashers and stuff. Now, I think personally, based on what some preliminary reading that I've done, which isn't complete. So this is the footnotes. Okay. I'm not giving you the whole thing, but essentially what it can do is lowering that pH can change the active site within one of the amylase enzymes and actually cause it to cleave a lot more of the sugars than it ordinarily would. Essentially, you're dropping the pKa range for that enzyme into a more optimal point, which allows it to work faster. pKa is enzyme activity rating, Tricky, because you look confused there. Right? It's not some fucking add-on for a Steinman or whatever that thing is that you use. Okay, essentially, by tweaking the pH and dropping it into more optimum range, you can essentially change the activity of the enzyme in order to make it work better and faster. Okay, now that's old news. So what I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about pushing my pH to 5.5 and leaving it there and brewing one of these house beers, the lower ABV beers that I've got planned, and seeing whether or not that really affects the bottom line as far as the final gravity goes. Because if it pushes it up another 3 points, all of a sudden I can brew a 2.5% beer, or maybe even a 2.3% beer. It's not that I don't like alcohol, it just means I can have like 15 pints and still drive.
Chris, I think it's an absolute dynamite idea.
Well,
Really?
and I remember doing a little bit of reading about this, be it very preliminarily.
How many dippers you had, man?
Preliminary.
Sorry, yeah. I had to say that. I had to say that pretty slowly.
Preliminary.
Preliminary. Yeah.
Close
Anyway,
enough, Owen.
and I can't remember which book I read it in. It might have been a Randy Mosher book. He was talking about how pH can kind of either accentuate the hop character of a beer or accentuate the malt character of a beer. And I think it was kind of the higher mash pH tended to, and it may not have been mash pH, it may have been final pH of the beer. So what's kind of interesting, maybe we want to talk about the pH at varying stages of the brewing process, which I think Hoddy kind of touched on when we were talking about this subject. And probably separates the point you just made, Chris, about mash pH. So maybe this is about final pH, is how that can accentuate characteristics of a beer. So if you're making a very malt forward beer, perhaps you would want a slightly higher pH, and if you want a more hop forward beer, you would want a slightly lower pH to a limit as ranges, right?
But that's why when you add different salts to your mashing process and to your sparging process, you essentially change the pH a little bit, don't you?
Yeah.
You ever notice that in Brewfather, when you make a change, you go super gung-ho on the calcium chloride, and all of a sudden your pH drops by like 0.2 or something. That's essentially what you're doing with those salts. But maybe if you wanted to make a super soft, super hop forward NEPA, you would change the pH as well as add in all that calcium chloride, and that may give you that super soft, pillowy mouthfeel.
But maybe less flabby.
Maybe less flabby. You can tweak the flabbiness.
Yeah.
And not simply by eating less like I've been doing. I'm a bit pissed off about this. I'm going to be honest, all right? I'm just going to vent my spleen for a moment. I fucking lost a shitload of weight, and you cunts are sitting there. Nobody's mentioned the fact that my face is nice and thin. Do you guys not love me anymore? Is that what it is?
Where's your 12 chins gone? He's only got 3 chins now.
Yeah, I only got the 3. In fact, to be fair, I've only got the 1. I'm missing my other chins.
You're back to 1 chin. Congratulations, Chris.
Yeah.
There you go.
Works.
Chin.
No, just chin.
Chin.
Anyway, that was all I wanted to say was, I am planning on looking at pH, and I've actually got a very small piece of equipment, which is essentially an inline
That's
pH.
what she said.
Yeah, but mine didn't complain.
Very good, Tricky. Very good.
Yeah, kudos for that one, Trick.
So, on that subject,
it was an open goal, mate. I mean, that was.
I'm no footballer.
You basically crossed it into the box, and there was no goalkeeper.
I'll take it. So yeah, that's where I'm heading for. But shall we do the commercial? Because my beer's currently getting warm.
Let's do the commercial.
On you go, Chris.
No. I've got to find a glass and stuff. It's not the size of the hammer. Although you don't knock a 10 peg in with a toffee hammer, do you?
No, you don't.
Is that your commercial ready to go? In the
go on, you crack on, boys.
So I've just cracked a quite special bottle from the Puckett cellars. This is the Cool Ship 2021 beer from the Wild Beer Company. So this is an annual release that they do, which is it's in the name. This is a Cool Ship beer. So this is what's known as a spontaneous beer, which is different to a mixed fermentation beer. Mm-hmm. And the key difference there is that mixed fermentation would be produced in the same way as a normal beer would be, but it will be inoculated with various bacteria. Yep. Whereas a spontaneous beer is something that they effectively, after running off the wort, they'll put it into what's called a cool ship, which is this kind of huge, open, flat vat that may not be particularly deep. It will help cool it, and whilst it's cooling, all of the natural kind of bacteria and, is it flora or fauna? Not too sure which it is. Chris is just desperately shaking his head at me
Fauna
like, you're such an
plants.
idiot.
No, flora is plants, fauna is animals.
So where does bacteria fit?
Protoctista, normally.
Who knows? It was probably a bad choice of
on
words.
The tip of your tongue, wasn't it?
And then obviously that beer then gets run off into barrel, into a tank, so it will effectively be inoculated by your local terroir.
Yeah.
And this is then being barrel aged as well. So it's a really cool beer. I'd kind of like to.
Have you tried it yet?
Yeah, I've had a couple of sips, and it's really, really amazing. So on the nose, doesn't help that I'm slightly blocked up, but I'm getting like a real kind of sort of quite peppery, almost like a nettle aroma, slightly licorice. And probably like lime, like a lime note as well. So it's quite citrusy, strange herbaceous, like a nettle herbaceous kind of vibe going on the nose. It's a perfectly crystal clear beer. Nice head retention. And on the taste, it's really zippy. It's got like a nice proper zing to it. Not super sour, also not super funky. It's not really, really farmhouse bratty. So it's not, I would say, necessarily an enormous amount of Brettanomyces in this beer. But you get a lovely, like, tangy, citrusy, lactic vibe going on in the beer. Super sprightly, as you would expect. Just really, really pleasant to drink, despite the ABV being at 5.9%.
Okay.
So it's reasonably heavy hitting beer.
Yeah.
But it's very, very light on the palate. Could easily be mistaken for a beer that's 2% below that.
Easy drinker.
Yeah. I don't think this 750ml sharing bottle is going to last very long. So no, I'm enjoying it immensely. Definitely a beer that I will be buying yearly.
Okay.
So I said this is the 2021 bottle. That was the third release. So they've obviously done a fourth release in 2022, and I will be buying at least 2 or 3 bottles of the 2023 release. I think they also do fruited versions as well now. I could be wrong on that, but I think they do some fruited stuff. I think the Wild Beer Company really excel at this type of beer. It's kind of in the name. Yeah, it's in the name. Their core beers, they do some stouts, they do some pale ales and stuff, and I think they're pretty middle of the road in my opinion. But they do some pretty decent spawn, mixed firm, barrel aged type stuff.
Yeah.
Check them out.
The one that comes to mind for me was the Finals one I went to see, and they had their own wild ales sort of thing going on, which were unbelievable. And that's where, like, your cell phone, I just love that stuff. It's good.
Yeah, I'm getting bang into it. Burning Sky, obviously, like way up there. I think Duration are doing more cool shit type stuff, so I think they're one to watch.
Yeah. Because they've got the folders.
Yeah, they have. They got the folders. They got the cool shit. They've got like good setup for it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of exciting people making really exciting beer,
which is good for us.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this kind of whole spawn type beer Although I will add that it's quite an expensive pastime.
Worth it.
Can I-
It's like wine.
That's for sure.
Is it just me, or, and I mean, feel free to shoot me down in flames because I know you're all going to anyway, but
Yeah.
isn't this just a way to sell off beer for a high price?
No. No.
No.
No, you don't agree with that
It's
one.
not because of the complex flavors you get from them. It's just
You get complex flavors from off pork as well, but I don't want to eat that either.
But it's how would you say it's off because it's drinkable?
I think it's like someone trying to sell, a 3-month-old bottle of Leon Perrins versus an 18-month-old bottle of Leon Perrins.
He's going into the conversation we had a couple of nights ago.
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't a couple of nights ago. It was last night, Chris.
Was it? Hey, every day just melds into one when you've got kids.
And it takes expertise and it takes time to make a really well-shaped beer like that.
I thought you were about to say Leon Perrins.
It's not just a off beer.
It kind of is though.
It's not. It's
It's
like
a beer
wine.
that
It's
people
like
haven't
a wine.
taken any care with at all, isn't it? They've just we'll pump it into this box and let some dust fall in it.
No, but it's blended, is it not?
I don't think it is blended. It doesn't say it's blended.
Okay.
I am saying this
That's
mostly
even
for
more
comedic
impressive.
value. I will be honest.
I think you're saying
I
it tongue in
feel like
cheek.
you're just poking the bear here.
Yeah.
It is purely comedic value. However, I do find it very, very strange that somebody is selling a bottle of beer that they've essentially taken no care whatsoever when it comes to the inoculation of that beer. And they're going, do you know what? This is definitely worth £24 for a 750ml bottle. It strikes me as weird that somebody was there. It's like Camembert cheese and brie. They've done half the process. All right, cheese is supposed to be hard and grateable. It's not supposed to ooze all over your plate.
Don't start on Camembert, Chris. All
No,
right?
I will.
You can poke
We're not going
holes.
to have this again.
You can poke holes at this beer, but don't you poke holes at Camembert.
I'm not going to, mate, because whenever you break the crust, it stinks.
Yeah,
Low and
that's the
slow,
whole
mate.
point. That's the whole point.
Anyway, I'm going to mute up while I pour my beer. Somebody else do a review.
Yeah, no, you stay on mute.
Quick, bring back that echo.
I'll go. So I've gone big.
Jeez,
I've got a
the Emperor's
Rebel
Brewery.
Fortress Emperor's Brewery collab with Free Hills. So shout out to one of our listeners.
Brett.
Not Brett. It was Luke.
And Patreon.
Luke Stevens
Patreon.
and Patreon who sent me this bottle. So
Wow.
thank you very much, Luke, for this, because I think this is actually the first time I've tried an Emperor's Brewery beer. Free Hills are kind of not up the road, but relatively local to me. I've met Andy, who's the brewer there, a couple of times via the homebrew club and stuff. So he's kind of in with our local bottle shop quite a bit. But as it was a collab with them, I thought this would be a good one for me to sort of try as my first Emperor's beer. It is Maple Pecan and Date Imperial Stout coming at 11%. Love the bottle presentation with the wax and everything on there. It's awesome. There's a bit of detail on the side with the recipe as well. So it's extra pale chocolate, roasted barley, wheat, oats, special bee, and biscuit malt, Willamette hops, fermented with American ale yeast, and adjuncts, date, sugar, maple flavor, and pecan flavor. And there it is in the glass. And on the aroma, to me, it just smells like pure like cookie dough. Like it's just it's all kind of like sweet malt, but yeah, very very kind of biscuity, like the oat. We were talking about the toasted oats. Like it smells exactly like that kind of toasted oats aroma when you get them straight out of the oven.
It's the flapjack MP.
Yeah, flapjack cookie dough kind of thing. Smells amazing. I don't really get much on the aroma as far as the sort of the pecan and maple and all the rest of it. But then when you taste it, it's just, wow. Like super rich. Loads of think probably out of those, probably the maple more dominant, I guess. But yeah, a little bit of a nutty kind of flavor as well. And then there's that sort of like sticky toffee pudding vibe from the dates. It's fucking really
Gorgeous.
good. Yeah, it's really, really good. Like I said, incredibly rich and full bodied, so it's definitely a sipper. But yeah, that's great. I don't think that'll be the last Emperor's Impy that I'll be buying. That's for sure. Well, I didn't buy it, but maybe I will buy some after this.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
talking of
really
expensive beers that are hard to get hold of.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting actually because like the Emperor Brewery, for people that don't know, is a British guy that has originated in a very small scale brewery, almost kind of, dare I say, homebrew scale volume, but became almost like cult following. Would release beers hand bottled, release them every once in a while. They'd be practically impossible to get hold of, but incredibly good. And then he's gaining popularity and now doing a lot more collabs. And I think now he's doing a lot more collabs
to get the space.
The beers can. It's almost, I guess, to some extent, cuckoo brewing, maybe,
or gypsy.
Yeah, kind of gypsy brewing. So now you can start actually getting hold of more of his beer,
That's good.
which is cool, and that's really good.
Hopefully that will get him his own brewery as well.
Yeah,
Or a bigger brewery.
If he's wanting to scale up, because that would be really exciting to be able to get that standard of imperial stout, because often they are like big hitting beers, right? They're like minimum 11%. Somewhere between 11 and 14%.
I think he was posting some stuff about going over to Omnipolo recently.
Yeah, I think they're doing an Omnipolo.
Yeah, so he's doing a collab with them. So that's I guess those sort of collaborations are going to help it if he is looking to move it up a bit in terms of scale and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think they're more or less kind of Omnipolo and Emperor almost from the same mold in terms of their approach to making imperial stouts. They're like super high starting gravity, super high finishing gravity, chucking in loads and loads of sugars. And
Omnipolo is a similar story as well in the sense of brewing in other people's breweries, were they not? Did Omnipolo not?
Is that where they started out? They might well have started out.
They were
Gypsy Brewing.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, though.
I think they still do, don't they?
No, they got their own brewery now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, big one.
Yeah, they got one built in a church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whereabouts are they? Sweden. Hop edition trip?
Yes. Let's get it done. I don't think we'd come home.
I think we've got Manchester first.
Yeah. There's a risk one of us is going to either end up in jail or
bombed,
not returning.
And that would be you, not me. Right, Andy, are you doing yours or am I going to do mine? Because I'm halfway through.
I'll quickly do mine because mine's won't take long. It's just I've got the old Air Brewing Jolly Beggars. It's just such. Do you know? It's one of my favourite beers. It's not
banger.
It's an absolute banger. Best bitter. It's just got this lovely kind of amber toffee thing going on with some nice dark, that kind of berry fruits thing, and just a nice kind of coffee. It's not pure coffee, but it's just got that nice, lovely best bitter finish, and it's just super clear and just really drinkable, and just dynamite. So yeah, that's mine.
That is a great beer. I've got to be honest. I had a few bottles of that, and I really liked it.
Whenever I put an order in, I always get a few bottles of that.
That's a good
one. Any of the other ones, always get that. Loads.
For anybody who's not had that beer, you need to get to Air Brewing and you need to get a few bottles of that because that is a true banger of a beer. Mm-hmm. I would put it maybe 3 rungs below persistently bitter, but it's still pretty good.
Of course you would. I have a
course I would.
confession. I don't think I've ever drunk an air brewing beer.
There you go.
Owen, remedy that situation because it's a good brewery, mate.
Yeah.
I think I'll have to.
Right then, speaking of clear beers,
Jeez, oh, Chris.
yeah, I don't
Paint
have
in the
one.
muck.
I don't have one. Now this is
Muck juice.
Magnolia, right? By Polly's. It had
What
to
a
be
name.
Polly's, didn't it? Right. This is.
It's pretty much.
It's really good. It's a beer that's really, really flicked my bean over the last few weeks. Here we go. Somebody's typing some message of abuse to me. Now, all it is Mosaic and Sabro, but I don't know what they've done with the grain bill on this particular beer. But I have to say, you get on the nose, you get like this weird. And stick with me here because this is going to be a strange one. Have you ever been out to a restaurant where you've had a meal and it's been such a posh place that they've given you like a oh god, what's the word? You know where you get like you get like no, you get like flavored ice to clean your palate. What's it called? A sorbet. That's the fella.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I went out to this place in Wakefield. It's called. Oh, I can't remember. Went out with a wife anyway. And we had our starter. And after the starter came out, they brought this like mint sorbet. And like, this is to cleanse your palate. And I'm like, fuck off, bring me a steak. But it was free. It was on the table. So I ate it, of course. Yeah, there was cutlery and everything, Brett. And when the next sort of meal came around, we had the main course, and then there was another sorbet before dessert. Okay. And the dessert had this really kind of, it was coconut and cream and honey and all these other bits and bobs. And there was like a shard of chocolate in there, but it was dark chocolate, and I don't eat that shit. So I threw that to one side. And all this beer reminds me of on the nose is of a mint sorbet with like a really creamy kind of beer going off. Not beer, really creamy kind of dessert. And it's weird because it's a NEPA, right? But I've got blueberries and mint is what I get on the nose. And it's stunning. It's so nice. But if you vape like a chimney like I do, right, doing my best impression of Thomas the Tank Engine, what you end up with is you get the malt backbone because you can kind of eradicate a lot of that fruitiness and a lot of that, like a lot of the chemical compounds that make up the fruit flavors, a lot of those esters, you don't get them because you've numbed your palate. Now, the malt backbone on this is oaty, and it's really, really sweet, and it's almost like, it's not quite biscuit, but it's getting towards biscuit. And I really like the malt backbone. So when I drink this, I tend to vape a lot. But when you drink the beer, like when you have 3 or 4 mouthfuls after you've vaped and it cleans all that crap off of your tongue and everything, and you actually get around to tasting the beer, the beer has got this kind of sweet cream blueberry thing going off.
Yeah.
And it's really good. And it's and it may just be the fact that I use this far too much. But the beer itself, it just tastes so good. It's creamery, almost creamy blueberry cobbler is the best way I can describe it.
We were talking about this earlier, Chris, about Sabro. I think we were having discussions because I think Tricky and myself had used it. I can't remember one if you chipped in on that one as well, but it's like you get this creaminess that comes from Sabro it's
insane. It really is insane because it's not supposed to be in a beer.
It's good though.
But to get that creamy note with the blueberry, and this Mosaic is giving off boatloads of blueberry, and then you take a massive mouthful like I just have done, and then when you breathe out, you get blueberry and mint. It's cool. Really strange. It's just such a nice beer. I mean, I know I bang on about Polly's and on about other breweries, and I'm the most enthusiastic man in the world when it comes to a beer that I like. But that one is really worth a shout, and it's one of their core range, and it really is a very, very good beer that if you are like me and Owen and you vape, will give you some really strange flavors in your mouth. And if you don't vape, and if you're just like a normal person who isn't constantly blowing clouds, you will find that the malt flavor, as interesting as or as weird as it sounds, is very interesting when it comes through with that fruity mint kind of vibe.
What beer is it, Chris? What's it called?
Magnolia.
Nice.
It's also got really cool can art as well.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
securing my masculinity so I can like pink.
Welcome to the hazy side of life.
It's really nice, and it's as thick as hell. It coats your tongue with every mouthful. It's a stunner.
Yeah.
Winner. Yeah, Sabro is an interesting hop. Yeah, that creaminess. And the mint thing is, I think people perceive Sabro differently. And sometimes, or whether it's just the way that you use it, sometimes you can get loads of coconut, sometimes you can get like a mint thing.
There is a hint of coconut in that, but
there's a
really
massive range of flavour that can come out of it, depending on how you, like you say, put it into the beer.
You see,
what you combine it with as well.
That's what I'm about to say,
with.
Tricky. I genuinely think that Sabro gives you different flavors depending on what it's paired with. I believe that the particular acids that come out of this and the particular flavor compounds that come out of it are the flavor compounds which change one flavor into another. I think there's a lot of them in there because I've had Citra and Sabro, and all I got was, like, for want of a better term, a lemon sorbet.
Yeah.
Whereas Mosaic and Sabro, for me, and you know, your mileage may vary, but it does give me this kind of blueberry and mint kind of creamy dessert thing going off, and I love it. I think it's beautiful.
Well, the thing with hop combinations is a lot of these like oils that are in the hops are kind of the same kind of like volatile oils that will be used in like perfume making and things like this.
Absolutely.
And essentially, like the balance between those oils can create a absolutely almost limitless palette.
It is pretty much infinite, yeah.
Aromas or flavors or whatever. And, you know, so it's not as simple as just going, oh, well, that one's got this and this, so it's going to make it taste like coconut. Okay, yeah, but then you add something else in there and it just will radically change the balance of those oils and create a totally different flavor. It might end up tasting like dog shit, but
really
you know,
equally,
it might end up tasting like, you know, creamy coconut pineapple. You know, like
I genuinely think that the ratio of one to another and the effect that has on your taste buds and to break it down into its most basic function, the electron or the nervous firing that you're getting off of your taste buds, which is how you sense taste, it may be slightly different, so it may perceive it as something else. And depending on how many taste buds you have on your tongue, because you have the whole super taster and like standard taster thing. That's why a Brussels sprout test comes from. If you're a super taster, you may get something different. If you're like a normal person with a normal amount of taste buds, you may get something completely different from that. It may be that, you know, I love Brussels sprouts, but I love the bitterness that comes from them. So clearly I'm a super taster. And it may be that I'm getting something totally different from this beer, and you might drink it and get, I don't know, coconut, blueberry, and cream. It's very, very subjective and personal, really.
Yeah, flavor. It's so weird when you talk to, you know, you sit with people and some people get something totally different, or you didn't notice it and they say like pink grapefruit, and then all of a sudden you can't taste anything but pink grapefruit. You know, once they mention it,
Power of suggestion.
Well, that's how good that beer was.
Oh, it's gone.
I think Chris has just made a very long review for basically pitching the reason he's a superhero.
Superhero?
You're a super taster.
Super taster.
Super taster.
Superpower.
That's a superpower.
That's like 30% of the population.
That's what the
mate.
vaping's all about. He's just got to dull it down so that he can actually get through his days. Because otherwise, he can taste what next door neighbour's having for breakfast.
Yeah.
He's that good.
He's big on the beans. My next door neighbour. I don't want to
like
taste anything.
Flicks the tongue out like a reptile. That's right. That's
Are they having fish for breakfast?
Kippers next door. I see.
Sushi off the barbershop floor.
Oh, good. All right. So commercials done then.
I think we can move on then.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a bit about equipment. Let's talk about equipment changes or material changes. What do you reckon, guys? Is there anything you've changed up in terms of your kind of setup and
I've changed a few bits in the brewery. I think the picture that Andy put up to promote the pod showed the new view in the brewery. It's not like anything major as far as equipment changes, but I've just like tidied stuff up a bit. Got a new stainless steel brew table to put everything on top of. The old IKEA desk was starting to sag under the weight of 50 liters of water in the
you squeeze it and the juices come out.
HLC, yeah, the chipboard was starting to just expand a little bit too much to be safe. So I thought that had to go. So got a new table. I've got a upgrade on the pump as well. So I got the Malt Miller's version of the
big one,
the Chinese pump that everybody sells basically and puts their own brand on it, but it's the 20 rather than the 15. So it's a bit chunkier. Just pushes a bit more.
If you noticed it
makes a big difference though.
Does it?
I noticed a massive difference when I used the 20 versus the 15.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It doesn't feel like it's spinning stuff faster in the whirlpools.
It is because I think it's 9 liters per minute more.
Well, on paper, yeah, but I mean, like in a practical sense. But anyway, it's
I definitely get
kind of the same price as what I paid for the old one.
Okay.
I think maybe one of the other advantages of it for me is like the bigger head on the actual pump. It seems like it's less prone to blocking up and getting clogged and stuff like that. For me anyway. It's a little bit more space to spin around.
You like a bigger head, yeah, Tricky?
Yeah, bigger head's always good. And extra storage, bit of shelving up in there. Really boring thing to talk about, but yeah, I've just made the brewing space a little bit more usable, a bit more ergonomic.
Well, you just chucked it in, didn't you, at the start, sort of thing, and
exactly.
To shape
so
it
when we moved into the house, it was just all the old shit out of the sheds. Previously, just went in there, and it was like wherever the removal men threw it, it just sort of ended up staying there, kind of thing. But probably the change that's I'm enjoying the most is having the RO system plumbed in properly. So I've just run a line off of the mains that goes into the boiler, which is in the garage as well. And my sister's partner is a boiler engineer, so he just fashioned a little valve assembly thing for me and fitted that on, and now can just turn the tap on and then RO water's on tap in the garage. So that's so much easier than having to piss about with all the hoses and stuff and running that into the garage. And it's also quicker now as well because I'm getting proper mains pressure straight into it, so it's not running through a load of garden hose and dropping the pressure down before it gets there. We've talked before about shortening the inlet to the RO system will speed things up. Obviously, if you're running it off of 10 meters of hose pipe before you get to that point, you're going to be dropping the pressure down anyway. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the stuff I've changed a bit, and it's just made the brewery a bit more easy to use and, like I said, ergonomic and stuff. So I'm liking that. The brew table, nice stainless table, cleaning that down at the end is much easier than the shitty old desk that would just soak up all the beer and start rotting pretty much after every brew. So
totally.
Yeah. So that's me.
Well, I got a counterflow chiller and did the maths and decided I didn't want a counterflow chiller.
Only you, Chris.
Do the maths first next time.
Well, I would have done. It was on sale. You know what I mean? I've also got a new pump, same as Tricky, and I've changed the internal layout of my because everybody knows I run a custom all-in-one.
Yeah.
I've changed the internal layout a little bit and made the outlet from the Whirlpool arm run through a barb rather than just running straight out of the 90-degree bend. And running through that barb has actually given me a massive pressure difference for the push. And then running the MP20 compared to the MP15 has actually given me an even bigger increase. And to put it into perspective, for those of you who are complete geeks like me, a reduction in diameter of my cone in the middle of my kettle post Whirlpool, it's basically reduced by nearly 2.5 inches. So I'm getting a much tighter cone in the middle. The only issue that I have is the right angle pickup that goes onto the main tap. For some reason, I took it off and refitted it, and now it sits about 3 or 4 mil higher. So it's not actually the hop stopper. It's not actually being a hop stopper anymore. So whilst I'm reducing the amount of shit that goes into the fermenter, it's not actually reducing the amount of shit by that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but because of the tighter cone, I'm pulling less in. So it's probably where it should be. Other than that, the only thing that I've changed is I have changed brew bags. My friend who is a seamstress has managed to get hold of some appropriately hole-sized material to be able to make me some brew bags. And I have what can only be described as the strongest brew bag in the world, because Oscar stood in it and I picked him up using the brew bag.
Wow.
And you've met Oscar. He's not small.
He's a big lad. He's a big
fucking
lad.
unit, right?
Unit.
So I can literally pick him up with the brew bag. So I've got the strongest
good
brew
build
bag in the world.
quality we're talking about there.
And
Right?
to be fair, it's all about the amount of pizza. But I can literally pick him up and that's perfect for me. So once I've finalized the design on the brew bag, then she said she's quite happy to maybe make those available to people who want them. But I mean, we're talking probably 6-8 months from now, and depending on her circumstances at the time, it may or may not happen. So I wouldn't hold your breath for that one. But this is a brew bag that you can recirculate through, but at the same time is obviously strong enough to hold a 7-year-old who's the size of a 13-year-old.
Cool.
Yeah, I tried picking them up once, and I struggled.
He's a big lad.
Yeah, so I've the only thing I've really changed in my system, which to be fair, there's not really a great deal you can change in it, to be honest, is adding the Trubinator from Brew Tools. So that is effectively like a trub trapper type kind of. I don't know. People are probably familiar with trub trappers, right?
It's a trub cone surround thing, isn't it? It basically keeps a trub in the middle of your kettle.
It's kind of and it's got like a rubber seal around the bottom, so it kind of almost like sticks itself to the bottom of the kettle, and then probably has a good.
Oh, that was an unfortunate moment to freeze.
You're in mute.
And Chris is muted. Oh God, more editing fun.
I'm back. I was vaping. I'm doing you a favor by vaping, by muting while I vape. Tricky.
Yeah, no, but
I'm not gonna go at you. It's just
Yeah,
he's back.
There he is.
Sorry, carry on.
Sorry about that. That's the second time Chrome has just crashed video this evening. Yeah, so it's probably got like a 6-inch, kind of 6 inches deep. It's got kind of this metal mesh.
That's what she said.
Yeah, yeah, you'd be so lucky. So
doing better than Chris.
What's wrong with 48 millimeters? Eh?
So, is that the guff or the length?
Oh mate, the girth is fantastic. It's the length is the issue.
It's like a dinner plate. So it's like
Like Stifler said, I have an 11-inch penis around.
that'd just be painful.
He's just thumbing it in.
It's like a
That's going to work for anyone.
Oh dear. Right.
Anyway,
Back to brew.
Yeah, moving on.
So and it sits like pretty close to the sides. There's very little clearance either side. But what's been great about it is the fact that it genuinely does trap everything, and I'm now able to get a better yield, therefore reduce my kind of kettle losses at the bottom, and also just get a cleaner work out. Particularly, I haven't actually brewed many massively big hoppy beers in it, but I think if I was to do like a Nipo with a huge whirlpool, that's going to be really good just to be able to keep all those hops out of the work. So that's been kind of pretty handy, and you know it's been some benefit at just under £200. So
Oofed. None of that brutal stuff's cheap, is it?
200
quid.
No, I don't think it was 200 quid. I'm exaggerating for comedy value, but it was.
You should have come to me. I make it much cheaper.
It was more than £100. It was more than £100.
Well, it says Brutals on it, so it's instantly it starts at like 250, doesn't it?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah,
The sticker's 195 quid.
yeah, correct. So call me a mug. It is great.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Same item on AliExpress minus badge for like £5 plus postage.
Maybe.
£5 including next day shipping.
Yeah, you ain't gonna find that on AliExpress. It's
That's no problem.
Norwegian. It's Norwegian.
Well, the Brutals obviously went all non-standard sizes in their mills for their tri-clamps and all that sort of stuff to stop them cloning it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's a shop on AliExpress that's got the Brutal system. It'll be on there already.
It won't take long if it's not there already. It'll be there soon.
Oh,
bloody hope so.
Andy, what have you got? Because we're trying to speed this along. We're at 2.5 hours already.
Okay, so obviously I talked about the counterflow chiller from the malt miller, just get the tri-clamps and all that sort of jazz. So that's pretty banging.
You bought it from the malt miller?
Yeah.
You didn't go to Brewcake Tap, our sponsor?
No, this was, it was about, when did I buy it? 3 months ago, maybe? It was before the Colossus thing. So, yeah, I got it from good old malt miller. And what else? I bought a bouncer filter because the last one I put in the dishwasher and it melted.
Good, well done.
Skills.
I put it in at 70 degrees because it was it went in with that.
Hang on a minute, which bit melted? Because
do you know the bowl? That bit.
The main
I thought that was rated for temperature because I'm sure they've said that it could.
No, it melted, mate.
handle like.
No, actually, I guess if they're saying
this will handle boiled wort, yes. Boiled, as in it was boiling.
Yeah, cooled down. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was thinking like transfer out the kettle, but obviously that's post cooling they're talking about. So
yeah, so I had to buy a new one of those because it's a cracking bit of kit. I do like it, and it saved my ass with transfer of hops. I think I'm just looking around. I got a new gas bottle.
Hey!
more CO2.
Right, fucking hell, let's move on.
We're scraping the barrel here, aren't we? Got a new gas bottle. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Okay, new and interesting ideas coming to brewing that have influenced us. I'll start with this. It's not something that's influenced me yet because I haven't done anything with it, but it kind of reinforces something that I think we mentioned on the previous pod as far as I'm not going to give the game away just yet, actually, because I'll pitch this one to you guys first. But
are you going to
there
do
was
a
an
video
article.
On this, Tricky?
You what?
Are you going to do a video on it?
No, I don't think so. Well, not maybe I will. There was an article on the White Labs website about their new Tropicale ale WLP 077. I don't know if that's actually going to be available to homebrewers at any time soon because it's one of their vault yeast or something. But anyway, it's basically their equivalent to the like thiol freeing, yeast. Their one's non-GMO, so it's not the same as is it Cosmic Punch, or something like that, which is the Omega one, which we can't get.
GM.
But it's like their kind of version of that without the GMO thing. But anyway, their article included an analysis of other yeasts as far as what their activity is in terms of like biotransformation and unlocking those bound thiols from the hops. So yeah, interesting. The thing that I was going to sort of pitch over to you to see what you think is what yeast do you think out of their trial of like the standard range came out as pretty much like leading the way as far as that activity for freeing bound thiols, do you think?
Nottingham.
Yeah.
No.
Oh no. USO5.
You'll be surprised.
SO4.
No.
Voss.
Nope.
I'm not naming any more yeast. I'm done with this game.
Okay, so.
Oh, wait. Yorkshire Ale.
No. You'll. So.
Weinstefana.
Hey, it was Weinstefana. WLP 830, which is the White Labs equivalent to 3470, basically.
I've been saying this shit for years. Y'all motherfuckers need to use more lager
No,
yeast.
but we were talking about this recently, saying as an IPA like yeast, like the Weinstefana yeast. And to be fair, like recently, having used it in the New Zealand Pilsner, I'm like, this is just like giving such an awesome like hop flavor, and really like pushing out the fruity flavors from the Nelson on this beer. And then you see that and you go, oh well, maybe there's some science behind that. So yeah, really interesting.
I'm looking at the website right now, and there's a really awesome. I love a box plot. If you're not if you're not familiar with a box plot,
who doesn't like a box plot?
Box and whisker is not only the best one, but it also is the most consistent at producing it as well. Like time over time, I would assume that's kind of what that's demonstrating.
Yeah.
So super consistent at doing it as well.
Can I just say that this is probably why German beers are the best in the world?
Probably.
So they've got a lot of experience.
Yeah. Well, I guess very different. They certainly wouldn't have been talking about hop biotransformation, would they?
Hey, that Mittelfrüh, man, that Mittelfrüh's a beast.
Maybe that's what. Maybe they just talked about it in different terms. But one of the things I'm quite interested in, which I think Matt from Track was talking about, was mash hopping, which relates to the point Tricky just made around this yeast that helps release thiols. Is mash hopping helps create the thiols, and I guess that's some sort of enzymatic activity going on by adding hops into the mash process.
Well, that's like 2 weeks of my life. I'm never going to get back researching that shit now, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry about that, Chris. And there is some preliminary research out there. I managed to say that word without
messing up,
slurring,
without fucking it right up, which is incredible. And not saying it like a 4-year-old as well.
Blah, blah, blah.
Preliminary. So yeah, exciting stuff. So mash hopping plus thiol releasing yeasts. Oof, I reckon we're seeing a new theme for beers in 2023.
Yeah,
I reckon everyone's going to be doing it. And hopefully we're going to get some super exciting results and some really, really super hoppy, crazy beers coming out.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan. My new and interesting ideas is simply utilizing my scientific background and looking at things like the pH effect on the body of beers and looking at the salt and pH effect, literally salt, as to whether or not the amount of sodium chloride that I add to my mash water, which is therefore going to be transferred through to the final beer, has a perceivable impact. I shouldn't actually say this because fucking Brewlosophy are going to nick it, but the effect of the amount of salt that you add within your brewing salts and the effect on the overall bitterness perceptibility within the beer.
I've been non-conclusive, Chris.
Well, it will be from them, but I'm not them, you know. I personally think that the amount of salt that I add, especially when I've made certain beers, and that bitterness, that really kind of that throat tingling bitterness that you get, the more salt you add, the more reduced that is, and that's where I'm going to test out.
I've started using salt in my beers now.
Yeah,
which is
it really aids the flavour.
It was
really
because
does.
it was Cornflakes that had it in it, and then I put it in my stout as well just there. So yeah.
Oh, it's great! It's great in stouts. I always add loads of salt to a stout.
Can I just say though to everybody who's listening and to the people who are watching, if you don't add it like Salt Bay, then clearly you're doing something wrong. Because it has to be rolled down the forearm into the brew kettle. I've got a feeling there'll be an image of that appearing on our Instagram sometime soon.
Because the salt goes in the boil kettle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's how I've been adding it. It doesn't go in with the mash.
I always took a pinch of salt into my boil kettle anyway, but I tend to add quite a lot more. I make up more of my sodium and chloride within the actual brewing liquor from sodium chloride than I do from not from anything else, but I tend to add it. I tend to add it that way than I do with magnesium chloride or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah,
there we go.
Cool.
Any other new and interesting ideas then, guys?
Yeah. What was your addition to the new and interesting ideas, Andy?
Oh, it was just cryo, wasn't it? I put down cryo. Want to try more cryo? I think that's you boys have maybe tried it already, but it's something I would maybe start again into now that we've got Yakima Chief starting to make a way in and easier access to cryo.
Yeah, so I just want to do a personal shout out, and if Robbie is listening to this podcast, I really hope he does. Robbie, sort out that fucking web shop, son. Come on.
Make it happen.
And I need kilo bags of Yakima Chief cryo hops.
Yeah.
So who has started selling
Richie Brooks got some.
Yeah,
Dark
Farm. And I think Robbie was saying he's had a bit of a hard time kind of getting a lot of the mainstream homebrew supply places to start stocking.
Yeah, because maybe they've got deals with Bathhouse or something.
The thing is, like, the point is though that a lot of those are already selling Yakima Chief hops, because of course if they're selling Mosaic,
it's just coming from a third party supplier, isn't it?
It's coming a roundabout way.
And you'd think there must be a benefit to them if they're going to get it direct, that it would be cheaper, surely, if it's not going through a middleman. But I don't know.
Hold up, we've been corrected by a Brummie. It's Dark Rock, not Dark Farm.
Oh, okay, Dark
there you
Rock.
go.
Okay. Sorry, people. Corrections.
Brummies. Anything else worth mentioning then, boys?
Nah.
No.
Tits
and subscribe to our Facebook, our YouTube, and hit that bell.
Ring that
and
bell.
If you are a Patreon,
oh yeah, Patreon.
If you are a Patreon subscriber and you're not currently on our Discord chat, it's a very easy way to pick up some information from a lot of very, very skilled and talented brewers.
Yeah.
And we're really open to sharing things like recipes.
That's all the other people that have joined it, not us, by the way.
And stuff like that.
No, it's your was it the Chiquitas recipe, Chris?
Esquitas.
Esquitas, that's it. Esquitas. Mate, my missus is addicted.
Forget the beer recipes.
Forget
it's all about the barbecue section
yeah.
on that.
Oh, has anybody tried DJ Barbecue's pineapple burger yet?
No.
No.
No,
No.
you boys are missing out.
Right.
He does a burger with blue blue cheese. It might not be DJ Barbecue actually.
Going to shoot it in the grill.
It's pineapple, blue cheese, barbecue sauce on a lamb burger.
Chris, get it shared.
Oh mate, if I will find it and I will share
Please
it. It
do
is
it, yeah.
the shit.
Sounds filth.
Do you reckon
I
it'd
love
be
it.
good with camembert?
Nothing's good with camembert except for wheelie
Get
bins.
some funky camembert in there, mate. That was
Yeah.
I'd
raise it to the
rather-
next
Nice,
level.
nice
Nice wee
slice
heart
of-
back.
In fact, I'm going to be honest. I would rather eat Andy's beard.
Oh,
Yeah, that's how bad I feel about camembert.
There's a weird mental image.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good point to close off.
Yeah, a strange and disturbing way to close the pod. So, yeah.
What, do we ever do anything other than that?
Strange
part of
and
the-
dark.
Right.
part of the kink.
I think based on the time, it is currently 11 o'clock. I think we're probably going to limit the after party to maybe 20, 25 minutes. I will post a link in the YouTube chat in a few moments. Thanks very much for listening. My apologies for not being there at the start, but I'm pretty sure you didn't miss me at all. And I've really enjoyed this one. It's good to hear where everybody's going and what everybody's doing. So subscribe to us on our Facebook page. I will do, Brett. I'll put a link in the Discord server just for you, mate. Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe to us on Instagram because we're on Instagram now. Andy's in charge of social media. And if you're a Patreon subscriber and you're not currently on the Discord, feel free to hit me up. I will send you a link to the Discord chat so you can join up. And if you're not a Patreon and you want to be, it is patreon.com/The Hop Edition Podcast. I think that just about sums everything up, doesn't it?
Sweet.
Yep.
All
Let's wrap
done.
it up.
I'm quite actually disturbed by the fact that Owen's got a white collar inside a black shirt.
Don't know.
I don't know, it's doing me.
Anyway, I'm going to
Yeah.
say it. I think this is episode 53 in the bag.
In the bag.
Carry on then.
Say good night, everyone.
Night, mate.
Good night.
Adios.
Cheers, guys.
Right then. I need
Tricky.
to stick this in.
Just as a heads up, Chrome kept crashing video.
Yes, Rick.
And at one point, I was still recording on Audacity, and I think I may have just shouted "for fuck's sake" or something like that.
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
You're gonna have to listen out for that. We just randomly shouted.
Hopefully it won't slip through.
I think Chris might have been talking at the time. I just shout like "fucking hell."
Oh, nightmare.
Right, I'm just gonna stick this in. I don't have. Can somebody please put the link and the password in Discord, please? Because I don't have Discord installed either.
Does these sort of issues, does that
I'll
not
put it
start
in
to
Discord.
bring the reason of using something like StreamYard or something like that?
Are you gonna pay for StreamYard?
Well, we've got Patrons. that
Are
give
you
us
gonna
money.
pay for StreamYard?
Well, are the Patrons going to pay for StreamYard?
We'd need another 15 or 20 Patreons.
Right, okay.
How
It's
much
a
is
lot of money.
StreamYard again?
That expensive, huh?
£200 a year, maybe just a little bit more.
Okay. What is StreamYard?
It's basically this, just somebody on their own actually doing it. All right, whoever's streaming us, stop streaming us, please. Right, that's it. We're stopping the streaming. Andy is going to post a link in Discord with the link and the password. Password is Green Lanterns Forever. Yes, you are, Andy, because I don't have Discord and you're in charge of social media.
I said I'd do it. Calm
Okay, you
down.
sorted it then.
Oh,
Right,
yeah, okay.
I'm stopping the stream. See you later, YouTube. Love you all.